I believe we have begun to live stream. I'm going to grab the link for everybody over at patreon.com and at URL. Hello and welcome everybody. Please deal with the audio in the background. It's raining here and there's nothing I can do about that because I'm not the creator of the universe. Patreon just got their link. Zane Stearns is here. What's going on? Zane Backyard Prepping, John Doe, Sergey, Scotty John. Fabulous. Let's bounce over here to OBS and turn on our screen share. Bounce back over here. We're going to talk about a bunch of stuff tonight. I'm going to do my best to move it right along because we have a lot of things that I want to talk about. I want to discuss tonight the 4 pillars of preparedness. The concept that we've touched on all these things before, but I've never quite presented it in this way before. So we're going to do a quick overview on this, and then I'm happy to announce on Patreon I'm going to be doing an entire series over the next 4 to 6 weeks breaking down the 4 pillars of preparedness: people, provisions, protection, and productivity. People, provisions, protection, and productivity. Why do you need them? How do you need them? What do you do about them? What does all that entail? So that will be coming on Patreon, but we'll do an overview of that this evening. I want to discuss, where are all the lawsuits? I thought we lived in a litigious country where you couldn't wipe your own ass without getting sued into oblivion, and yet here we are having our constitutional rights violated constantly, day by day by day by day by day, by private companies, which has been determined according to U.S. law that those are citizens, which means they don't have the right to violate my constitutional rights. Now, I'll be the first one to tell you that I believe we are currently a republic in name only, constitutional republic in name only, but where are we at with that? I want to talk about Governor Stitt here in Oklahoma, a press release that he has out, Lockdown 2.0. There have been 4 officers that were involved with January 6th who have died by suicide. We're going to be discussing that as well. By the way, I have, for about the last 30 days, actually enjoyed the YouTube algorithm occasionally favorably presenting our content out there to you people on YouTube. And I am certain after tonight's live stream that will end because we have tons of stuff to discuss.
And you noticed it. You have to watch that before.
Yep. Well, I'm telling you, it's back to the old school shadow ban. I can feel it coming. We're going to talk about Israel and Iran. We're going to talk about developments in the South China Sea. We're going to talk about the Centers for Disease Control and their extension of the Eviction Moratorium. We're going to talk about New York City and their vaccine passport. We're going to talk about the United States military mandating vaccinations for its service members. Going to talk about the Australian military deploying their own military in-country to enforce lockdowns. We're going to talk about Google firing all non-vaccinated personnel. And we're going to talk about inflation. So, if you will hang with me, we'll get started. Of course, tonight's presentation is brought to you by RefugeMedical.com. Handmade, made in America, guaranteed forever. Military, law enforcement, and civilian sheepdog blowout kits. You cannot get a better kit. I challenge you to find a better kit. You can check it out at RefugeMedical.com. Now, all of your links are in the description, both on Patreon and on YouTube, down below in the description. So I'm not talking out of turn here. I will be reading from all of these articles, all of which, again, are linked down below. So while I will certainly be adding my own opinion on the matter, this is news, okay, not opinion. So from MSN.com, Governor Stitt, Kevin Stitt here in Oklahoma, the great state of Oklahoma, more Texas than Texas is, says no more COVID-19 restrictions, mask mandates in state buildings. Governor Stitt said he'll issue an executive order, this has already taken place, taking away any COVID-19 restrictions on gatherings and will remove the mask mandate for Oklahomans inside state buildings. His announcement comes nearly 1 year after he imposed his first COVID restrictions at the start of the pandemic. The executive order will end limits on public gatherings, attendance limits at indoor sporting events, and a mandate that all employees and visitors to state buildings wear masks. And this is the quote that I'm after. Quote, "The standard for normal cannot be 0 cases," Stitt said. In Oklahoma, the standard for normal is freedom. The freedom to worship, the freedom to go to work and to earn a paycheck, the freedom to visit your loved ones in nursing homes, the freedom to send your kids to school in person, and the freedom to protect your family however you see fit. And as long as I am governor, I will protect the freedoms of Oklahomans. I wanted to begin tonight's broadcast with that to set the stage, set the tone for everything we're going to be discussing, because I have been inundated with correspondence over the last couple of weeks from people who are having to make real-world decisions about what do I do? My employer is going to force me to take the jab. What do? I live in a place that is going to lock down. What do I do? And I am not saying all of y'all should move to Oklahoma, because I kind of like it out here in the sticks by ourselves. We don't need a whole bunch of new neighbors. But I am saying that maybe you live in the wrong place. Maybe where you are, you need to look between your legs, find your reproductive organs, and realize that you are a man. You are created in the image of the Most High, and you have certain inalienable rights that are guaranteed by this country, and stop letting other people violate them just for a sense of security, which is all a facade anyway. From RT, mass protests kick off in Paris after France's constitutional court approves controversial COVID legislation. Reinvigorated mass protests kicked off in the French capital shortly after the country's top court upheld controversial legislation which makes a coronavirus health pass mandatory for the general public. By the way, if I sound kind of like garbage, it's because I currently have COVID. It's the flu. I'm gonna be okay. It'll be alright. I'm happy to announce that I have 0 comorbidities, and I also feel great and have no intention of killing myself. So if anything stupid happens, wasn't me, okay? Hundreds of protesters marched through the streets of Paris on Thursday, heading towards the Constitutional Court. The judicial body ruled on the COVID legislation package earlier in the day. The court rejected some parts of the proposed law, including a provision allowing French authorities to enforce mandatory quarantine on any person who tested positive for the virus. However, the court upheld the majority of the legislation, including the compulsory vaccination of caregivers and the health pass, as constitutional. Now remember, their constitution is far different than ours is. A large crowd of protesters gathered by the court, expressing their anger over the ruling. The court itself was cordoned off, with a heavy police presence in the area, as shown in footage from the scene shared on social media. Protesters chanted various slogans, including "Macron, we don't want your pass," referring to one of the most criticized provisions of the law. The legislation, expected to be enacted on Monday, is set to make the so-called health passes mandatory in France, barring anyone without them from restaurants, bars, and other public venues. Similarly, this has happened in New York City. Over here from Fox 5 New York, which is the big Fox channel in the New York tri-state area, downstate New York, New Jersey, Connecticut. From Fox 5, New York City launches vaccine passport. I'm sure most of y'all are familiar with this. New York City will require proof of vaccination for people who want to dine indoors and take part in other activities like gyms and theaters, and for those who work there. It is the city's most aggressive step yet in tackling the highly contagious Delta variant. Back to the concept of, do you get to violate my First Amendment right of religious freedom if I say that I will not do this because I have a sincerely held religious belief that I will not pollute my blood with something that I deem to be unclean? And I can back that up from Deuteronomy 18 and Galatians 5 and Revelation 18 and James chapter 5, and I can back all of that up. Do you, as a private company, get to violate my God-given, constitutionally protected rights because you have decided that you will enforce these things because the government doesn't currently have the horsepower to do so because all these vaccines are emergency use authorization only. This is an honest question. Where are all the bulldog lawyers out there? Where are all the attorneys who are willing to take these cases to trial and get some type of precedent set on this? If it was me, if I had hit the Powerball, which I have not any time recently or any time in my life, I would be throwing millions, if not billions of dollars at this. Perhaps we need a coalition of people to come together and start funding these types of actions. And I'm not for egregious, litigious, stupid lawsuits, but this is literally a constitutional issue. Not only that, we hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal and endowed by their Creator with life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. Liberty is not you get to tell me what I will and will not do. So, just curious, where are all the bulldog lawyers out there? Email us. Admin at Bear Independent. Email me. If you're an attorney, I want to know legitimately, is there a leg to stand on here? Back to the article.
It breaks HIPAA rights.
It does break HIPAA rights, but nobody seems to care about that anymore. Back to the article. Quote, this is a miraculous place. Sorry, this is de Blasio speaking. This is a miraculous place, literally full of wonders. Mayor Bill de Blasio said, if you're vaccinated, all that's going to open up to you. If you have the key, you can open the door. If you're unvaccinated, unfortunately, you will not be able to participate in many things. Oh, so we have a class system now. We have the other now. Those who are vaccinated and those who aren't. Cool. Reading a really interesting book right now titled IBM and the Holocaust. Yeah, the other people usually works out really good for them. De Blasio said New York City is the first in the nation to take this approach. The key to the New York City Pass will launch on August 16th, 2021 and be enforced starting on 13 September. New York City Hospitality Alliance said this policy makes more sense than another shutdown. I'm sure it does. All you need to do is capitulate and take the jab, and then you will be allowed to participate in society again. AKA whoring in Babylon. Yeah. Moving right along. In Germany, let's see if I can get this to play. Phelps, let me know if this pulls up on the screen. Alright, so this is the police side in Germany. Getting a little hands-on with folks who are protesting the COVID lockdowns and restrictions in Germany. What I found amazing here is that, and this may not be the video that I was looking for, there's another one, is how militant this has gotten. Now, granted, this is happening all over the world, which is in of itself a shame, but we're getting to the point now where we've got law enforcement officers in battle rattle pushing people off the streets, knocking old ladies to the ground and locking them up. Now, see, again, this is Germany. In the United States, we have a constitutionally protected right to redress our grievances to our government. Not so here in Germany. But literally around the world, this is going on. And what amazes me is how few people to this point honestly have stood up and said, you know what, no, I'm not doing. Yeah, you can arrest me, you can take me to jail, you can throw me off the streets, and I'm sure they're getting lots of people with unlawful assembly, but why are they assembling in the first place? It boggles my mind that men and women who are descended from people who got on wooden ships and left another country 250 years or more ago because they were not allowed to worship as they saw fit, and then went to war with the greatest military power in potentially the history of the world. Us, who are descended from those people, are now at the point where, like, yeah, it's kind of inconvenient, but whatever, I don't want to get the flu. It could be pretty bad. I don't want to get the flu. I truly do not understand why people don't have the balls to simply say, no, I'm not doing that. You cannot make me do that. It's heartbreaking to me. And it is indicative to me of, it's one more facet of the decline of the American empire. People don't care anymore. This is all just simply taken for granted. This is being allowed to happen. Remember that huge argument 20 years ago, 9/11 made it happen or let it happen? Oh, they let it happen, man. They just let it happen. And there was this, in certain aspects of the preparedness community and the conspiracy theorists, there was this huge pushback against they let it happen. You are letting it happen. Your neighbors are letting it happen. The people you go to church with, the people that you work with, people that you hang out with are letting this happen. It boggles my mind. From NBCnews.com, another thing that boggles my mind, 4 officers who responded to the Capitol riot on 6th of January have died by suicide. I find that an interesting turn of phrase as well, died by suicide. And I'm no fan of any law enforcement officer or anybody taking their life, but the circumstances here are curious. 2 August, NBC News. 2 more Washington, D.C. police officers, 2 more, who responded to the January 6th riots at the U.S. Capitol have died by suicide, police said Monday. Since the attack by a pro-Trump mob, 4 officers who defended the site that day have died by suicide. Obviously, chew the meat, spit out the bones. There's very clearly an angle in this article. Officer Gunter Hashida, who's probably had parents in the military, was found dead at his home Thursday, the Metropolitan Police Department said Monday. And Officer Kyle DeFreytag was found dead July 10th. Hashida, a veteran of the force since 2003, was assigned to the Police Emergency Response Team. We are grieving as a department as our thoughts and prayers are with Officer Hashida's family and friends, police said in a statement earlier Monday. DeFreytag, who was assigned to the 5th District, has been with the police department since November 2016, a police spokesperson said Monday night. Speaker Nancy Pelosi sent condolences on behalf of the House of Representatives following confirmation of Hashida's death. Officer Hashida was a hero who risked his life to save our capital, the congressional community, and our very democracy, Pelosi said in a statement. Yeah, thanks for virtue signaling, you, I want to say bad words, you piece of trash. Continuing the quote, all Americans are indebted to him for his great valor and patriotism on 6 Jan and throughout his selfless service. Over 100 D.C. and Capitol police officers were injured defending the Capitol on January 6th, and 4 have died by suicide since then. Curious. Additionally, or again, you've got links to all of this in the description box here on YouTube and on Patreon. There's also a link in the description to Patreon directly for those who'd like to join. It's $5 a month. I'm unapologetic about it. We produce more content there in a week than most people produce in a month. So, and I think the value is extraordinary. And so shout out to our patrons for keeping the show on the air. We love you guys. We appreciate you guys. You're the best. From RT, Israel is ready to strike Iran, says defense minister amid simmering tensions with enduring foe. Here we've got a little snapshot of an Arrow 3 ballistic missile interceptor. Israel's defense minister has said the country's armed forces are ready to strike Iran should it become necessary as tensions rise further after an Iran-linked attack on an Israeli tanker killed 2 people. On Thursday, Israeli Defense Minister Benny Gantz was asked by Ynet News whether Israel was ready to strike Iran. Gantz answered simply with one word: yes. The minister went on to say that Tel Aviv sees it as important to mobilize the international community to counter Iran's influence and growing assertiveness. Quote, We can't tag Iran solely as an Israeli problem and absolve the rest of the world from this issue. So Israel is seeking to form a coalition of nations to take direct action against Iran. When questioned, Gantz confirmed that he was talking about the allied nations supporting military action against Iran. Quote, the world needs to deal with Iran, the region needs to deal with Iran, and Israel also needs to do its part in this situation, he asserted. On Wednesday, Gantz, along with Foreign Minister Yair Lapid, identified who they believed to be the leader behind last week's deadly drone attack, which killed 2 seamen on an Israeli oil tanker in the Gulf of Oman. Amir Ali Hajizadeh, or Hajizadeh, I don't know, commander of the IRGC's air forces behind dozens of terror attacks in the region employing UAVs, and missiles, Gantz stated during a briefing at the Foreign Ministry. The defense minister also claimed Iran was just 10 weeks away from having enough fissile material to produce a nuclear bomb, also known as breakout time. Tel Aviv is seeking to convene the UN Security Council over the Iranian-linked attack which killed a Briton and a Romanian. Britain and the US have also stated they believe Iran was behind the attack. Iran has denied any responsibility and vowed to deliver a strong response to any measures taken against them after the UK said it would not let the death of a British sailor go unpunished. I need to take a quick break from talking for a moment, even though that's my job. I'm going to sip this water. Phelps, there's new dates up on refugetraining.com. That's correct, right?
Yes. That is correct.
Indianapolis is up.
Yep, we got Nashville and Indy.
Nashville and Indy. And Nashville is a responder 1.
Both of them are responder 1 followed by responder 3.
Responder 1 followed by responder 3. So responder 1 is your 4-hour stop the bleed class. And that's derived from our TCCC curriculum, 8-hour TCCC. Most stop the bleed classes are pretty mediocre. They throw a tourniquet at you, teach you how to not die, and an hour later give you a certificate of paper. Ours is a lot more in-depth, a lot more hands-on than that. That's responder 1, 4-hour stop the bleed. And then responder 3 is 8 hours force-on-force scenario-based medical training using sim guns where you get to shoot each other, stab each other, blow each other up. And so that's, we have a responder 3 currently in Philly. And if you're in the Northeast, be warned. I will never come farther north or east than Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. I'm not coming to New York. I'm not coming to New Jersey. I'm not coming to Connecticut. I'm not coming to Maine. I'm not coming to Vermont, Delaware. I refuse to be a felon because I like to protect myself and I enjoy my constitutional liberties and personal rights. So Philly, there's a responder 1 in Philly, 4-hour stop to bleed, and there's a responder 3, which is scenario-based force-on-force tactical medical training in Philadelphia. You can check that out at refugetraining.com, and then dates are up for responder 1 and responder 3 in Nashville and in Indianapolis. Yes, sir.
And we will not be back to Philly this year.
And we will not be back to Philly this year. That is the farthest north and east we are coming in 2021. So, for everybody who's in the Northeast clamoring, Bear, you gotta come do training, Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, the dates are on refugetraining.com. If you're in Chicago, if you're in Detroit, come to Indianapolis. If you're, near Nashville, come to the Nashville class. If we have a date on a map that's within 3 or 4 hours of where you're at, that's the class that you need to come to. So, check it out. Philadelphia, responder 1, responder 3. Indianapolis, responder 1, responder 3. Nashville, Tennessee, responder 1, responder 3. And Roanoke, Virginia, responder 1, 4-hour stop the bleed as well. All those dates are at refugetraining.com. Back to Israel and Iran. From One American News Network, we've got a new scumbag in chief in Iran, which excellent commentary from Pastor Joe Fox of Viking Preparedness on his Patreon page today, his World Sit Rep, talking about it's entirely possible that everything that's going on currently with Iran is smoke and mirrors because they are in a state of civil unrest in their own country because this particular scumbag here, what's his name, Raisi, has got some people in his own country a little spun up. The last line in this article from OANN, a Khomeini protege, Raisi, has said that the U.S. sanctions were imposed on him for doing his job as a judge. Dissidents fear his presidency could lead to more repression. And there's dissidents who are quite unhappy about the fact that this dude is now the guy. We don't need to read the entirety of this article, but essentially this guy is right-hand man of the Ayatollah Khomeini. The mid-ranking Shiite cleric formally started his 4-year term on Tuesday when Supreme Leader Ayatollah Ali Khamenei endorsed his victory in the June election. Supreme Leader. So this guy's the president, but it doesn't matter because there's a Supreme Leader. Got it. When most prominent rivals were barred from standing. This guy's also apparently, there's been a number of sanctions imposed against Iran, and this guy in particular, because it looks like he was involved in some genocide. But don't worry, he was just a judge doing his job. Nothing bad ever comes of that, right? And we're not worried about right and wrong. We're just a guy in the administration doing my job. Got it. Iranian Western officials have said significant gaps remain in nuclear talks and have yet to announce when those talks, whose last round ended on 20 June, will resume. The United States urged Raisi to resume talks soon, saying the diplomatic window would not stay open forever. And I'm sure they are shivering in their boots at strong words coming out of the Biden administration. Let's see. With economic misery palpable and signs of growing anger among Iranians, escaping U.S. sanctions will be Raisi's top economic goal, political analysts say. The United States, Israel, and Britain blamed the recent incident that we just discussed on Iran. Tehran has denied responsibility and warned it would respond promptly to any threat to its security. Iran also denied involvement in a hijacking incident in the Arabian Sea on Tuesday. Maritime security sources said they suspected Iranian-backed forces were behind the attack on a Panama flag tanker, and Washington said it believed Iranians hijacked the vessel, but was not in a position to confirm. There's a lot of really interesting things that happened during this alleged hijacking. First of all, apparently 7 Iranians were able to undertake a seaboarding operation and take control of this tanker during the same time with which 4 other ships in the area were transponding that they existed, then didn't exist, then they were under attack, then they were fine, or some such nonsense. And then the 7 Iranian aggressors somehow exfilled off of the ship. Yeah, lots of weird stuff going on. How many people we get on? 1,500. Nice to see y'all. Fabulous. Like most nations, the United States has no formal diplomatic ties. Wrong article. Appointed by Khomeini to run the judiciary in 2019, Raisi was placed under U.S. sanctions a few months later for the role he allegedly played in the executions of thousands of political prisoners in 1988. Iran has never acknowledged the killings. Just a guy in the government doing his job. No, just thousands of political murders. No big deal. The government said, you'll do this thing. Several thousand people said, no, we won't. And the government said, cool, we're just going to kill you. Don't worry, it's not illegal because we got a judge to sign off on it. No big deal. Yeah, it's just a guy doing his job. Also from One American News Network, this is interesting. U.S. approves potential sale of Howitzers to Taiwan. The U.S. State Department approved the potential sale of 40 155mm M109A6 medium self-propelled howitzer artillery systems to Taiwan in a deal valued at up to $750 million. The Pentagon said on Wednesday. By the way, that price seems pretty damn good. Like, that's affordable. I think everybody, if we start a GoFundMe and pool our funds, we could get at least a couple of these. I mean, you're talking about $17.5 million a piece, $20 million a piece. Come on, like we could probably find a grant for this with all this ARPA money that's flying around right now. Bear Nation, mechanized artillery. Let's do this thing. This comes after arms sales last year that included drones and coastal missile defenses meant to upgrade the island's capabilities and discourage a Chinese invasion. The Biden administration has approved other direct commercial sales of arms to Taiwan since taking office. The package would include the Howitzers, 1,698 precision guidance kits for munitions, spares, training, ground stations, and upgrades for Taiwan's previous generations of Howitzers, the Pentagon said. Taiwan's defense ministry expressed sincere gratitude to the U.S. government in a statement on Thursday, saying the sales would help its ground forces increase their capacity for speedy reaction and fire support. The ministry called on the continuous U.S. arms support as a basis to maintain regional stability. China's foreign ministry, naturally, said it was firmly opposed to the sale and has lodged stern representations, quote, whatever the hell that means, with the United States. I love it when they try to talk big, but their English sucks. These are stern representations. What do you mean representations? But okay, got it. With the United States, according to comments from a spokesperson posted on the ministry's website. I like it when we get our news from China's official websites. Like most nations, the United States has no formal diplomatic ties with Taiwan, but it is required by law to provide the Chinese claimed island with the means to defend itself, and its most important international backer to Beijing's anger. Who wrote that sentence? That's terrible. Despite approval by the State Department, the notification does not indicate that a contract has been signed or that negotiations have concluded. The Pentagon said BAE Systems PLC was the prime contractor for the weapons. BAE Systems PLC will likely get hacked in the near future because that's what China does. Also in the South China Sea, not exactly old news, not exactly new news, but for those who are unaware, the Brits have sent the HMS Queen Elizabeth aircraft carrier to the South China Sea and its carrier strike group. South China Sea has been a hotbed of naval activity this week with British Aircraft Carrier Strike Group, an American Surface Action Group, and forces from China's People's Liberation Army, the PLA, all staging exercises in the contested waterway. In other words, all the big kids on the block have all gone out to the playground and are flexing, and we're just going to see who pokes who in the chest first. In a statement provided to CNN, a spokesperson from Britain's Ministry of Defense said the carrier strike group was lawfully navigating the South China Sea, quote, just as 1/3 of global shipping does on an annual basis, end quote, basically saying, hey, we got a right to be here, screw China. The statement added the strike group was taking the most direct route through the international waters to conduct exercises with allies and partners in the Philippine Sea. Interestingly enough, the United States is also strengthening ties with the Philippines right now. There's a joint training exercise that will be taking place there with about 3,000 soldiers or U.S. Armed Forces personnel. I don't remember the exact makeup as far as the Space Force even go to the Philippines. I don't think Coasties go to the Philippines. Probably going to be sailors and Marines, but I don't friggin' know. Anyway, 3,000 members of the U.S. Armed Forces are going to the Philippines for joint training exercises because the United States is trying to increase its foothold in the area because the South China Sea is going to become a hot zone sooner or later. I also have it on really good authority that people who do things to bad people in the middle of the night, you know, the green-eyed boogeymen, currently their near-peer threats, not a concern for them. Their specific threat level right now is 76239. So take that for what it is. That could change in a heartbeat. They could say, hey, you're going someplace else to do some other thing that never happened either. But currently, their specific threat is 76239. There's no actual militaries that issue 76239 right now, which means it's a whole bunch of Durka jihad over there in the sandbox that is the primary concern for people who don't have name tapes currently. Back to the article. As the Defense Secretary said to the United Kingdom Parliament back in April, we are not going to go to the other side of the world to be provocative. We will be confident, but not confrontational. On Friday, a series of photos posted on the United States Navy's website showed U.S. Marine Corps jets involved in operations off the British carrier with a date line of the South China Sea. A free and open Indo-Pacific region that is peaceful and stable is vital to ensuring greater prosperity for the region and the world, the photo caption said. Who writes that garbage? Anyway, you have the link to this from CNN in the article down below. To reiterate, guys and girls, refugemedical.com, promo code GREEN15 is your code right now. 15% off anything that's green in the whole damn store. So if you want a stomp bag, a Mac 4, a Mac 8, an SOB kit, a Cub kit, which is in stock. This is the Cub kit. We'll talk about this more in a minute. But it's a rip-away pouch. When they're gone, they're gone. So if you've ever wanted a Cub kit or a Cub Pro, now's the time to get them. Promo code is green15 at refugemedical.com. 15% off everything that's green in the store. We'll talk a little bit more about that in depth in a moment. After we talk about Reuters here, judge orders U.S. to respond to CDC eviction ban challenge by Friday. So for those who aren't tracking, the Centers for Disease Control extended their eviction moratorium another 60 days within the last 48 hours or so, I believe. I find it fascinating that the Centers for Disease Control somehow had, under whatever false precedent we're operating under, has the authority to extend an eviction moratorium. However, the global pandemic of COVID-19, or whatever the hell we're calling it now, the Delta Gamma Beta X-ray variant, is so bad that people can't go to work, can't pay their bills, can't pay their rent, so we can't evict them. And in the prepper space, there's been a few channels that have, by the way, I am sitting in this exact chair right now. Are they implying that I am homeless? This is ridiculous. This chair that's up on the screen, that is the exact chair I'm sitting in.
Oh.
Interesting. That comes from Walmart. Normal people buy normal stuff at Walmart. Leave me alone, CDC. I'm bumfuzzled now. It blows my mind that the CDC says, yeah, that's it. You can't evict anybody for another 60 days. Well, what about the people that own those properties and are dependent upon that revenue to pay their bills? What about the banks? And I'm no fan of banks, but what about the banks who are dependent upon that revenue coming in? I mean, this whole thing is becoming a perfect storm of real estate, which is a whole nother story, but keep an eye on the real estate bubble because I believe it's just a matter of time before it pops. I think fall 2021 is going to be very, very interesting. Dateline, Washington, August 5th, Reuters. A U.S. judge early on Thursday ordered the Biden administration to quickly respond to a legal challenge to a new eviction moratorium put in place by the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention. And gosh dang, they are so good at their job. Disease control and prevention, they are killing it. No, they're killing people. That's what they're killing. U.S. District Judge Dabney Friedrich ordered the Justice Department to respond by 9 a.m. on Friday. The Alabama Association of Realtors and others said in an emergency filing late Wednesday that the CDC had issued the new order for nakedly political reasons. Essentially, what they're saying is that, the evil, they being the Democrats in Congress, are saying that the evil Republicans want to throw you out of your house and put you on the street, which is where this prepper nonsense is coming from, that there's going to be these masses of roving hordes. Maybe if you live in the wrong damn place, there's going to be sooner or later masses of roving hordes for one reason or another. So if that's a concern that you have, you probably need to adjust your lifestyle a little bit. If you live in the type of place where even a small group of people behaving badly puts you on the defensive to the point where you're worried about your life, you live in the wrong place. I know, Bear, it's easy for you to say. No, dummy, I moved from Dallas. It can be done. With an 80-year-old grandma and 3 kids. Okay, so I don't know what you got going on, but it's probably not as complicated as that, and we still managed to figure it out. And, drum roll please, we live in Nowhere, Oklahoma, and still managed to earn a living and have not starved to death yet. So, it can be done. For nakedly political reasons, to ease the political pressure, shift the blame to the courts for ending the moratorium, and use litigation delays to achieve a policy objective. U.S. President Joe Biden told reporters on Thursday he believed the moratorium was legal and said he had not instructed the CDC to issue the order. He said he could not guarantee the courts would not rule against the moratorium. More than 15 million people in 6.5 million U.S. households are currently behind on rental payments, according to a study by the Aspen Institute and the COVID-19 Eviction Defense Project. They collectively owe more than $20 billion to landlords.
It's insane. How about you just let people go to work and pay their rent?
I was just going to say, it's almost, you're right, Vincent. It's almost like you can't just shut down the greatest economy in the history of the universe and then just start it back up again. It's almost like, dare I say, it's almost like they never intended to start it up again. It's almost like some guy named Klaus Schwab from the World Economic Forum said that COVID-19 is the reason that we need to have the Great Reset. And it's almost like the Great Reset is literally global socialism. I'm not saying that would be absurd. But it's almost as if that's the case. And, like it used to be kind of fun to be a conspiracy theorist, to kind of dive into these rabbit holes. It's boring as hell now because they're all friggin' true. Like it's all coming to fruition. Again, exercise your no muscle. Your life is what you make it. It is not what you let other people make of it. And if it is currently, if your life is currently what you have let other people make of it, change, homie. Change your modus operandi. Do something different. You do the same shit day in, day out and get the same results. Guess what? That's the definition of an insanity. Do something different. Throw your stuff in a U-Haul and move. Go to another place. Start a business. Change your job. Put your knees on the ground and your face in the dirt and cry out to the Creator and ask for His blessing and direction on your life. Do something else other than sit around and wait for permission from your government supreme leader overlords to be able to continue to exist. I am just about fed up with the lack of spine that Americans and others around the world are showing nowadays. What happened to all those people? You can pry my guns from my cold dead hands, against all enemies, foreign and domestic. Well, the enemies are here. They're here. And they're doing it. They're just doing whatever the hell they want. FoxNews.com, Secretary of Defense Austin to announce mandatory vaccine policy for all active duty military. Published a day ago. Secretary of Defense Lloyd Austin is expected Friday, that would be tomorrow, to announce a mandatory vaccine policy for all active duty forces in the U.S. military. Fox News has confirmed. The directive that all 1.3 million service members will be required to get shots in their arms comes just days after President Biden urged all federal employees to get vaccinated. Subheadline here, Biden says Americans should expect more COVID restrictions. I say you should kiss my hairy white ass. I'm going to do what I want to do to protect, provide for, and bless the people that I love. And if you have a problem with that, come see me. In a speech last week, Biden said he was directing the Defense Department to examine how to make the COVID-19 vaccine mandatory. The Department of Justice was also asked by the president to look into the legality of mandating for the military a vaccine that is yet to be approved by the Food and Drug Administration. Let's read that again. The Department of Justice was also asked by the president to look into the legality of mandating for the military a vaccine that has yet to be approved by the Food and Drug Administration. DOJ, Department of Justice officials, said a vaccine mandate would require a presidential waiver. Oh, I wonder where old Joe's going to fall on that side. Where does he land on that one? Officials told Fox News that Austin will make his recommendation to the White House tomorrow, and the formal announcement is expected to come Friday. About 64% of active duty forces are fully vaccinated. Among all U.S. adults, about 70% have received at least one shot. What's the big friggin' rush here? On it, 70% of people have received at least one shot. Going all the way back to the beginning of the broadcast, Governor Stitt in Oklahoma, quote, The standard for normal cannot be 0 cases, Stitt said. In Oklahoma, the standard for normal is freedom. The freedom to worship, the freedom to go to work and earn a paycheck, the freedom to visit your loved ones in nursing homes, the freedom to send your kids to school in person, and the freedom to protect your family however you see fit. As long as I'm governor, I will protect the freedoms of Oklahomans. Thank you, Supreme Leader Stitt. Back to the article from Fox News on the military vax. Last week, Biden said federal employees and on-site contractors would be required to get the vaccine or be subject to regular testing. This is something that's currently happening in China. If you don't take the vaccine, you have to pay for 2 to 3 times weekly testing to confirm that you don't have COVID. How many false positives are people going to get that's saying they have COVID? We know that the tests aren't reliable. They've not been significantly improved. Praise the Father, it's quit raining. Wonderful. The requirements affected the Defense Department's civilian employees but did not extend to active duty service members. The upcoming application to active duty service members was first reported by the New York Times. CDC has reported a more than 64% increase in the number of coronavirus cases confirmed over the last 7 days. Oh, you mean the seasonal flu. Got it. Bringing caseloads back on par with figures reported in mid-February. Again, to reiterate, I currently have a medical diagnosis of COVID-19. I currently am just fine. I'm gonna be okay. It's not the end of the world. And if I am no pinnacle of health over here. If I can weather this thing, most people can weather this thing. And the sad fact of the matter is, yes, many people have died from COVID-19 and comorbidities, but they were people that had pre-existing conditions and comorbidities that they would have died had they gotten the flu, would have died because they already had congestive heart failure. This is not the end of the world, but we're allowing it to be treated as such because there's a political agenda at play here and people don't have the balls to stand up for freedom anymore. In Australia, gung-ho from thesun.com, gung-ho Aussie politicians have deployed the army and helicopters to order people to go home in what is one of the world's strictest COVID lockdowns. One man caught a chopper shouting out stay-at-home orders from a loudspeaker and shared it online. I'm not interested in playing his video. In footage, a blue and white helicopter circles the Aussie who blurts out, "What the F?" as he's warned that local police would find him and issue a fine. Australia is enforcing one of the most severe lockdowns in the world and recently called in the military to help enforce its zero COVID strategy. Governor Stitt, the standard for normal cannot be 0 cases. In Oklahoma, the standard for normal is freedom. In Australia, they are enforcing severe lockdowns and called in the military to help enforce its zero COVID strategy. Have you seen in Beijing, they had 17 new cases and put a bunch of, thousands of people in a tent camp? A camp filled with inflatable tents to isolate the 17 people? Back to the Sun article. Under the government's policy in Australia, rule breakers caught ignoring the latest regulations will be slugged with a $500 fine. Borders remain shut until the percentage of the population to receive both jabs jumps from the current measly number of 17% to 80%. Oh, so we're just going to keep everything shut down until you comply. Kiss my hairy white ass. On Saturday, up to 1,300 police swarmed Sydney and set up roadblocks in a massive show of force to stop a repeat of last week's violent anti-lockdown protest. Some 300 unarmed army personnel will also help police go door to door to ensure people who have tested positive are self-isolating. Meanwhile, 250 fines were issued and Aussie authorities have made testing and mask wearing outdoors mandatory. New South Wales Police Commissioner Mick Fuller told a news conference, quote, the sheer volume, oh my gosh, Several dozen new people have gotten sick. Let's shut down an entire continent. The sheer volume of increase over the last week, the level of compliance has gone from hundreds into thousands. Australia has been praised for its handling of the pandemic. By who? Not by me. With the Pacific nation reporting just over 34,000 cases and fewer than 1,000 deaths. Absolute garbage. And that's the last article we're going to look at today. 1,983 people on. I appreciate y'all so much. Let's talk about promo code GREEN15 for a hot minute. I'm going to hop over to OBS just for a minute. I'm going to do a thing like this because I have the best production quality. Best compliment I ever got on Bear Independent was you have the best information and the worst production quality. And I will own it. I will wear it as a badge of honor. Let's stick that feather in my cap. Okay. RefugeMedical.com. Code GREEN15. All the kits. If they're green, you get 15% off right now. This is the Cub kit. Okay, it's a rip-away kit, so you can mount this to your headrest, your Molly gear, your whatever, and just pull it off when you need it to go. This is a great car kit. It's a very reasonably priced kit for what's in it. You got a cat tourniquet on the outside. You got your North American Rescue shears on the outside right here. And then you pop this sucker open. Then inside, you've got another tourniquet. You got a SWAT T tourniquet. You've got compressed gauze for wound packing. You've got a badass Olay's fold flat pressure bandage right here. You've got 2 5x9 gauze pads behind that. A nasal pharyngeal airway. You've got quick clot rolled gauze right here. You've got hyphen chest seals. You've got a Sharpie. You've got gloves. You've got duct tape. All of it right here, ready to go. Super comprehensive kit. That's the Cub Pro. Those are in stock in OD green and several other colors. And then when these pouches are gone, they're gone. I can't get more. We've looked into producing them here in the States, and I just don't know if it's going to be, it may be cost prohibitive in order to be able to do that. So when this is gone, when the Cub Pro is gone, it's gone. So if you've wanted a Cub Pro and you wanted a green Cub Pro, promo code GREEN15. Or if you want a red one, they're there too. Also the SOB, shout out to everybody who has been purchasing the SOB. This kit is badass. This is currently in testing and evaluation with JSOC. We've been doing a lot of these for military and for law enforcement. It's super tiny. Here's a water bottle. Okay. Here's the SOB kit behind it. Okay. Like, it's super slim. SOB is small at the back. You've got a cat tourniquet mounted on the outside right here. It's shock corded on. It can be deployed in either direction for your war belt, for your plate carrier, for your chest rig, for whatever, for a headrest. I run mine on my plate carrier upside down so I can pop this tab. I can get this red handle, pull the inner pouch out, and then in the inner pouch, I've got a decompression needle, I've got a Sharpie, I've got combat gauze, I've got hyphen chest seals, nasal pharyngeal airway, I've got a mini compression bandage in here, I've got my gloves, I've got my gauze, I've got fold flat duct tape, got everything I need for wound packing, for working the March algorithm. Massive bleeding, I've got my tourniquet and I've got my wound packing and my pressure bandage. I've got an airway. For respiratory, I've got chest seals and a decompression needle. For circulation, head injury, hypothermia, got everything you need inside of this kit. And it is a tiny, look, okay, here's my hand. It's a little itty bitty kit. Handmade, made in America, guaranteed forever. We're up to 20 lives saved, by the way. Super happy about that. I'm just going to take a couple minutes and brag on our team, brag on this company that we started from scratch. Most recent life was an elderly woman that was saved with a stomp bag. If you've ever wanted a stomp bag, you've got two options, really. You can join the United States military and become a member of Naval Special Warfare and become a medic, and then get a stomp bag because it's a SEAL Team operational medical pack, and then you can have a stomp bag. Or you can go to Refuge Medical and buy one And actually, our stomp bag exceeds military specifications. And so there was an elderly woman who was having some complications. A couple of people trying to get some vitals on her. Wasn't working. They had a stomp bag. They were able to take her vitals, determine that she was in a pretty bad spot, and got her to an elevated level of care and saved the woman's life because they had a stomp bag, which is a hospital on your back. I mean, it's got instrumentation in it. It's got medicine in it, the ability to run fluids, splinting, cervical collars. You've got a quick litter in there for transport of casualties. You've got all the trauma. You've got surgery. There's a surgical suite in there. All of it in the stomp bag. It's completely badass, and I love the fact. I'm super proud of the fact that not only are we up to 20 lives saved in the last 16 months, not the last 16 years, the last 16 months with these kits deployed on 4 continents with 5 branches of the armed forces, but now we've got to save with a stomp bag as well. And so that's really awesome. I'm just super stoked about that. So 20 lives saved. Boo-boo kits are in stock. If you wanted a boo-boo kit, you can get a boo-boo kit. Love these things. Made in America, guaranteed forever. You break it, we'll replace it. And then the standby, the guy that started it all, the Bear Fac. If you haven't seen the Bear Fac before, this is it. It exceeds military specification for individual first aid kits. It's got everything you need and nothing you don't for working the March algorithm. Pop this open, pull this out. I've got my quick clot combat gauze right here in the top. Pop this open. Check this out. None of this bull crap, my medic, how do I find all the stuff that I need? No, it's prioritization of care based upon the March algorithm. Massive bleeding. I've got my pressure bandage and my tourniquet right here. I've got my quick clot right here, so I can deal with massive bleeding, which accounts for 88 to 90% of casualties right now. I've got tape, and not only do I have tape, it's retained, but it'll also pop right out, okay? I've got a decompression needle for respiratory issues. I've got a Sharpie. I've got nitrile gloves. In the back, right back here, the stack. I've got real shears, North American Rescue shears. I've got a nasopharyngeal airway. I've got 2 5x9 gauze pads, and I've got 2, not 1 but 2, full-size high-fin chest seals, because you've got 2 lungs, and bullets tend to go through things, not in things. So you got an innie hole and an outie hole, and if you only got 1 chest seal, that's a problem. That's one of the things that pissed me off about the military-issued IFAC. They were sending Marines into combat zones with 1 chest seal. Come on, bro. It's ridiculous. And that's actually one of the things that prompted the development of this kit, which was developed in conjunction with U.S. Special Forces. And then down here in this pouch, you've got everything else for the March algorithm. You've got your emergency blanket, you've got triangle bandages, you've got more gauze, you've got more tape, you've got more gloves, you've got compressed gauze for wound packing, all down here. So you got your massive bleeding, your airway, your respiratory, your circulation, head injury and hypothermia, and then everything else. And so the Bear Fac, this kit has saved like over a dozen lives. This one right here on its own, and as a company we're up to 20 lives. I'm pretty damn proud of that. So thank you for supporting our American-made small business. These are made by hand by Americans, by the way. If you break it, I will send you another one. If you use the contents to save a life, whatever you use, I will replace it at no cost to you, because I want good kits in the hands of good people. It's at refugemedical.com. Thank you guys for dealing with my spiel. Let's do a little Q&A. I'm going to hop over here onto the YouTubes.
At the risk of sending you off on a tirade, someone just commented about their $7,900 U-Haul rental.
Their $7,900 U-Haul rental. Well, I hope you are moving your ass from where you are to where you need to be. Thank you to all the super chats. Rebecca, I appreciate you. Knowledge 85, Texas T, Shalom, brother. Boo Boo Kit used 2X in Ohio. The Rays Roundup. Medic Mouse, tell us what you use. Shalom, brother. Medic Mouse, tell us what you use. We'll get you some more Band-Aids, homie. No A in independent. That's right, my beautiful wife, Badger, and all the Blue Wrenches. Shalom, Hunter Kirk, Mark Bottoms. For those of y'all who haven't been here before or are unfamiliar with how we run things around here, we're now going to do some Q&A. I said earlier that we would discuss the 4 pillars of preparedness, and I will briefly go over the 4 pillars of preparedness. And again, I'm happy to announce that for the next 4 to 6 weeks, I'm going to be doing, in addition to the content that already exists on Patreon, I'm going to be walking through every one of these 4 things: people, provisions, protection, and productivity. And why does that matter? What is it? So I'll give you the overview now. Justin Ridlin, what's up, man? I'll give you the overview after I give myself a puff on this Romeo y Julieta. People, the 4 pillars of preparedness: people, provisions, protection, and productivity. People. Many hands make light work. You cannot do it all yourself. This is the concept of cover and move, which is a military concept also adopted by Jocko Willink and his partners at Echelon Front, a consulting company. Having enough people allows you to engage in division of labor and utilize the expertise of the individuals within your group. People contribute to quality of life because you don't want to just survive the end of the world as we know it. You want to survive Thursday on your back porch as the world slowly burns. And you do that by being surrounded by good people. Under people, you have the concept of mutual assistance groups. Groups of people who are working in concerted effort to be able to maintain normalcy for the people that they are responsible for the people that they love, by taking positive action and not waiting for the government to show up and tell them what they can and can't do. No, growing their own food, developing their own security, developing their own intel, their own commo networks, their own security, taking personal responsibility, running their own American small businesses, doing what they see fit to do, executing on life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, not asking permission from the supreme leader. That's mutual assistance groups. And then continuity of community. And what I mean by continuity of community is that this country may very likely go to hell in a handbasket. It sure seems like it is going to hell in a handbasket. And on a federal level, I don't think there's anything we can do about that anymore. I think we learned in this previous election that your opinion and my opinion doesn't really matter. Okay? But what can you do? You can act and think locally, and you should act and think locally so that you can maintain continuity of community. Because when we go from the international stage to the national stage and potentially into balkanization and regionalization, your neighbors are going to matter. Your mayor is going to matter. Your local EMS, fire department, and law enforcement officers are going to matter. And so you need continuity of community, and that's all under the heading of people. Provisions. This is your 4 grains and your 7 meals. I have murdered this concept 40,000 times on YouTube already, and we're not going to jump into it now. Crybaby Blues, bless you, thank you. 4 grains, 7 meals. Corn, rice, wheat, beans. 750 pounds of grain per person per year. Works out to 3,277.18 calories per person per day, which is the exact recommended amount for a military-age male to consume in a day and not lose muscle mass when engaged in strenuous activity. 750 pounds per person per year. Corn, rice, wheat, beans. What if I can't get wheat? Then you get 250 of corn and beans and rice. What if I'm allergic to beans? I don't care. Then you figure it out. Okay? 4 grains, 750 pounds per person per year. Yes, you need a year. Why? Have you noticed the supply chains? They're ridiculous. And then the 7 meals plan. You develop 7 meals that you can make out of cans and jars and boxes, which is basically dump stuff into a pot and heat it up, that your family likes to eat. And you stock your pantry deep with these 7 meals. You start at 3 months, then you go to 6 months, 9 months, 12 months. And if you got 12 months of 7 meals and 12 months of grain, homie, you've got a year and a half of independence now, that if the military or the sheriff's department or whoever decides that the only way you're getting into the bread line to get the federal socialist loaf today is if you've received the jab, you could say, thanks, man, I'm good. I actually got my own bread line because I went haywire and bought 47,000 pounds of wheat. Have you ever worked a grinder before? Come here, let me show you how to do it. Your biceps and triceps are going to be beautiful. Okay, so 4 grains and 7 meals. Water storage. Most of y'all are shitting the bed on water storage. You have to do better on water storage. I have to do better on water storage, and I have 10 water sources on property, and I have to do better. So we, as a community, need to do better on water storage. You need 3 gallons per person per day. 1 to wash, 1 to prepare food, 1 for basic sanitation. Consumables. Okay, this is all the stuff you're going to use. Paper plates and toilet paper and plastic forks and paper towels and blah, 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 blah. Consumables. Stack them deep. Medical items. And by this I mean, do you need insulin? Do you need over-the-counter medicines? Do you need prescription medicines? Whatever those medical items are. Wound care. Do you know how much it takes for wound care? You should have a bucket filled with 4x4 gauze, 5x9 gauze, alcohol, and or hydrogen peroxide. Oh, it damages the cells. You want to die, homie? I don't care. Okay? Hydrogen peroxide, some shears, some tape, and some gloves. Fill a 5-gallon bucket with that. And that is wound care for 1 grievous wound for 30 days. If you accidentally cut yourself with a chainsaw or have an impalement because you're walking through the woods and you get a cedar limb stuck through your thigh, that is 1 grievous wound cleaned and treated twice a day for 30 days. Okay? It matters. So medical supplies, medical items, stack them deep. Of course, you can get kits from us. You can get components from us. You can buy gauze on Amazon from Jeff Bezos' 5th yacht. I don't care, but you need to go deep on those. Fuel. This is another area where most people suck at storage. You need more fuel. Cooking fuel, transportation fuel, and heating fuel. So think about that. Cooking, transpo, and heating. Barter items. A lot of y'all get wrapped around the axles on barter items. I bought 12,000 Bic lighters. Cool, but you didn't buy anything else. So you're going to hope that you can trade 12,000 Bic lighters for all the stuff that you should have got instead when you bought 12,000 Bic lighters. You should have some barter items. Selko Belkovic, that guy has a great article on it. And again, we're going to get more into this on Patreon. And then I would also say under provision, precious metals. I don't trust the direction that the US dollar is headed. I don't know if you've seen what crypto's been doing lately, but small denomination precious metals so that you amongst your community and your continuity of community and your mutual assistance group have a critical mass of small denomination precious metal so that you can trade dissimilar things so that I don't have to trade you half of a goat for a chicken because that's difficult to do, right? So that you can trade dissimilar things. I'll give you a Walmart sack filled with okra in exchange for some pickles and a chicken. Cool, but I don't know if that's quite... Well, I'll throw in 1/10 of an ounce of silver. Sounds good. So small denomination precious metals. Protection. This is your security. Number one focus for most preppers is security. Maybe so. People get wrapped around the axles on it, but it is incredibly important, and if you don't take it seriously enough, it will bite you in the ass. Intel and your network. You have to talk to people. You have to be constantly developing real-world intel, getting information from people, and filtering that back through your area study, through your understanding of the who, what, when, where, why, how, in your neighborhood, in your community, in your city, in your county. How does all this make sense? Intel and network. Your commo. How do you talk to your people? Who's listening when you talk to your people? Your hardware and your equipment. And we'll just leave it at that because we're on YouTube. Your hardware and your equipment. Caches and spider points. What do you have stored where for when and why, and what mission does that allow you to facilitate because you stored this thing in this place at this time in order to be able to do this thing when you have to go do this thing. Just shot a Patreon video on caches and spider points. It'll be posted in the next couple of days. Vetting. How do you vet people? Clearly falls under protection. And then productivity. You need to be able to produce, not just consume. And so if you live in an apartment right now, my challenge to you is to get 3 5-gallon buckets, plant some jalapenos, plant some tomatoes, and plant some cilantro, and make friggin' salsa. You have to learn how to produce food. A, quality of life. B, I will not allow somebody else to determine whether or not my family gets to eat today. I will not do it. That is a deal breaker for me, which means I have to be as fiercely independent of the system as possible. That's what bare independent means, by the way. It is my goal to be as independent of this fragile system as possible, because I will not be dependent upon somebody else to make sure that my family eats. So you have to be able to produce food. This comes back to agriculture. Productivity also includes training useful skills. How are you a productive member of your community, a productive member of your mutual assistance group, a productive member of your security team, or your medical team, or your commo team, or your intel team, or the logistics and maintenance team? Train those skills up. You need to be a leader, and you need to be a valuable asset. I've talked about this before. We're up to 123,000 followers on YouTube. Praise the Father. I don't want 123,000 followers. I want 123,000 leaders. I want 123,000 pockets of freedom and liberty and independence out there in the world. When this place goes to hell in a handbasket, that y'all are able to operate better because of what we've done here at Bear Independent than if you hadn't taken personal responsibility to do these things in the first place. And then you need to train others so that you can leave a legacy. What happens when you go? And by the way, the world might end tomorrow. It might not end for another 900 years, or 65,000 years, or 4.2 billion years. So what is your legacy when you go? What have you done to contribute long-term after you take your last breath to the well-being of the people that you love? What have you left them with? Those are the 4 pillars of preparedness: people, provisions, protection, and productivity. Dan Berger, he's on fire! Todd Preston Marshall. Sanctified Supply Co. If y'all don't have shirts and hats and hoodies from Sanctified Supply Co., you're wrong. You're just wrong. And I feel bad for you. And I don't want to feel bad for you. If you have not gone to Sanctified Supply Co. in at least the last week and gotten a Shema hat or a Warrior hoodie or a t-shirt or any of that, all of that, probably all of that, you're wrong, and I feel bad for you. I pity you. Let's do, what do you want over there, Phelps?
I was going to say, there was a good question earlier.
Send it.
Jonathan Hay said he spent 2 years working towards becoming an officer in the Marine Corps.
Mm-hmm.
And now with everything going on with COVID and vaccine, jab, everything, he's feeling unsure about it now. So he wants to know what your opinion is of that.
Kevin F., bless you. Yes, we will. Kevin, I'll get to your question. All right, so this gentleman spent 2 years becoming an officer in the Marine Corps. Towards becoming an officer in the Marine Corps.
That means like in college.
Uh-huh.
ROTC and whatnot. But now he's uncertain because of the weirdness.
All right, so he spent 2 years thus far working towards becoming an officer in the Marine Corps, and now he's uncertain what to do because of the weirdness. Simple answer. It's what we've been talking about the last 3 days. Pivot, homie. Pivot. Do something else. If you have that check in your spirit, you better honor that check in your spirit. Do something else. I've done all kinds of shit with my life. And it seems like about every 3 or 4 years, I end up doing something else. I just pivot from what I was doing to what I am doing now. And it's uncomfortable in the moment, but I have never gone without. And so if you have a check in your spirit about whether or not you need to continue on the path that you're on, you will do yourself a disservice if you don't honor that check in your spirit. That's my advice to you. And so if you're feeling that way, you need to thine own self be true. First know yourself. Yeshua HaMashiach, Jesus the Christ, said that. First know yourself. And if yourself is saying, man, I don't know about this, then you don't know about this. That's your indicator right there. Do something else. Oh, what about the 2 years that I lost? You mean that you spent those 2 years doing stuff that's only applicable to become an officer in the Marine Corps? You can't take that and use it on something else? I would hire you if you came to me and you're like, yeah, I spent 2 years trying to become an officer in the Marine Corps, but I quit because I didn't want to take the jab. I'd be like, you know what? I appreciate your honesty. I appreciate your integrity. Tell me more. For every person you would alienate with that story, you would endear somebody else to you with that story. So if you feel like you need to jump ship, jump ship. Kevin F. said, y'all bless you, brother. Sent you an email about bear campsites. Want to ask you also, my wife is pregnant. She's due 3 January. Any advice what to do if we will never get the V? Y'all bless you, Famine Nation. So, Kevin, I don't know. I was recently, tread on this. It's coming, brother. I was recently in a hospital because I have the COVID. And I'm not just talking out of my ass. I'm diagnosed, ladies and gentlemen. I've got it. And I was ready to physically fight anybody who tried to give me the jab the whole time I was there. And it didn't even come up once in conversation. So I think it very much so depends on the situation that you're in. I also would encourage you that, yes, we are blessed in the United States of America with a massive amount of medical knowledge. We are blessed with modern medicine. But people have been having babies since the dawn of time, since way before hospitals existed. Find a doula, find a midwife, find somebody that will work with you that doesn't care if you're vaccinated or not. And work with them. You have options here. Tom, you're right. There is no such thing as COVID. You're right. Kosher Dad, what's up, man? I was just talking about you in a video yesterday. Jay Higginbotham, shalom, brother. What other questions we got? Delaware is south of Philly, LOL. It's also east of Philly, LOL, and I'm not going there, LOL. You know why? Because I like standard capacity magazines and life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. You sound strong and kicking the coronavirus's arse right now. Thank you, Hunter Kirk. What kind of watch are you wearing? It's a Timex Expedition. Super fancy.
That's the fourth person that's asked that today.
Really? It's a Timex Expedition. They're like $60, and they hold up really well. Like, it's got scratches on the glass, but I don't care. It survives homesteading and operating operationally like an operator when we operate. And it also, coincidentally, tells time. So I like it for that. Liberty Off-Road Bear, it's good to see you back in the live stream. Hope you and your family are well. We are. I appreciate that. We're, like I said, we're all just kind of doing battle with the CV right now, but it's okay. We're making it. So, and it's, guys, it's the flu. Like, I can speak to this with some authority now. It's the flu. You know what's been like the number one thing? Dayquil. NyQuil, naps, like it's not been pleasant at times, but never at one point was like, I need to find a tall building to jump off of. This is terrible. So
digging a hole 'cause I'm about to be gone.
yeah, exactly. Fire up the skid steer. I'm gonna die. Put me in the compost pile. Concrete, shalom, brother. Takes a licking and keeps on ticking. Bear, if you just had COVID, why are you smoking? Haven't you read the reports? Smoking is good for COVID. Also, it's because of this thing called addiction. But that's a whole nother story. And
what cigar do you like?
What cigar do I like? I like lots of cigars. I'm a fan of the Drew Estates Tobacco Specials. I like Gurkha Beasts. This is a Romeo y Julieta knockoff from Cigars International, and it's delicious. I like Drew Estates Cuba Cubas. I like Man of War Ruination Warhorse cuts, but that's like a 3-hour smoke. But I really like those. That's an AJ Fernandez product. I like a good brisket. Yeah, I like a good brisket too. I agree, Kevin F. I got 2 quarts of dried mullein. Put up if you need to smoke. Well, thanks, Badger. Shalom, brother. It's a hydroxychloroquine cigar. 75 hard, Brian Fassett. Amen. 75 hard is going well. I paused for 1 week for COVID recovery because I have COVID, but I also have pneumonia. And so all you Nancys out there that are going to be like, well, why are you smoking? Because it's my life and I want to. And so I paused for a week. I still did everything on 75 hard but the PT. I am on day, I got to go to my notes because I'm keeping a journal like you're supposed to. I'm on day something, 30 something on 75 hard. Let's see here. I'm on day 33 of 75 hard, plus a week of recovery. So day 40, and I've dropped 34 pounds in 40 days, including having this horrendous coronavirus disease. So, Garen Clackley, what's up, brother?
Chad Nevington said, Bear has COVID. If it knows what's good for it, it'll move along.
What's up, brother Chad? What is 75 hard? I'll give you 75 hard in a nutshell. I like the more conversational portion of the show. This is great. I've missed y'all, Bear Nation. Thank you guys for being here. 75 hard. It's a book and a concept by a guy by the name of Andy Frisella, and it's a mental toughness exercise. For 75 days, you got to do 5 things. You have to pick a diet and stick to it. Doesn't matter what diet it is, just pick a diet and stick to it. You have to drink 1 gallon of water per day, minimum, and no alcohol. So I'm on day 40-something of no alcohol currently. For all the people who are like, how dare you call yourself a Christian and drink whiskey on a live stream? Kiss my ass. I'm on day 40-something of no whiskey, all right? So that's the second item. Gallon of water a day, no alcohol. Third item is you PT twice a day, 45 minutes each, and one of them has to be outside. And it can be whatever you want for PT. You just need to go move your carcass twice a day, 45 minutes each, one of which has to be outside. For me, that's not much of a challenge because we live out here. Our 2 PT sessions today were 5.5 hours of milling lumber, cutting firewood, burning trash, cleaning up the yard. I mean, we sweated our butts off earlier today doing forestry for 5.5 hours. So I'm going to go ahead and just call that PT for the day, right? So that's item number 3. Item number 4 is you have to read 10 pages of nonfiction per day. We added item 4B, 10 pages of scriptures per day as well. And in fact, one lady in our group has finished the Bible. Which is awesome. Okay. Mary Flash, bless you. Colloidal silver, I've got some of that. I appreciate you. Bless you. So 4A, 10 pages nonfiction per day. 4B, 10 pages of scriptures per day. And then Oki's boss, shalom, sister. It's not that hard once you get into the groove of it, honestly. And then item 5 is you have to take a progress pic every day. I'm getting intel sent to me by Kosher Dad in real time on my email while on the live stream with 1,699 of y'all. I forgot to add earlier 2 little bits of intel. Thank you, Glock 316. I missed you back, brother. This is from, I'm not even going to give names, but this is from somebody in the Bear Nation. The heading is Inflation to the Max. It says, my brother's wife is a manager of a food and nutrition at a rest home in a certain state. This is about her weekly order. Deli meats and cheese on her U.S. food order went from $2.99 per pound to $12.99 per pound for meat, and cheese went from $3.49 to $9.99 a pound in 1 week. So deli meat from $2.99 to $12.99, and cheese from $3.49 to $9.99. Mickey Langello. All you got to do to get rid of the flu is take some coils under your tongue. Thanks, Mickey. Thanks, Mickey. Appreciate you. Oh, and Olight has a sale that they just emailed me about. That's very nice. Where's the other one that I wanted to show y'all? Right here, from a gentleman whose name I definitely won't say. He says, Google held an emergency meeting last night. This came in a day ago. All unvaccinated employees will be terminated at the end of August, to include direct employment workers and contract employees. So, from the Bear Nation, first-hand account, Google held an emergency meeting. All unvaccinated employees will be terminated at the end of August. This will include direct employment workers and contract employees. If you have intel you would like to pass to me, to us, Bear is for when people like Chuck Norris need a hero. Amen, Joey Jones, amen. I would flex, but I don't want to hurt myself. Intel at bearindependent.com. Intel at bearindependent.com is where you send that stuff. And, the way the world is looking, I'm not going to say we're going to be back to doing these reports every day, but I can definitely see the need to increase the frequency of the briefs again. How does that sound to y'all? More briefs, yes or no? Michael T, what's up, man?
Evad wanted to tell a COVID joke, but 99.963% of people wouldn't get it.
Ha 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 ha! Remember that time when we had lighters that worked?
Right?
That was a good time back in the day. Should have got those 12,000 big lighters for barter.
Someone actually earlier said when you were lighting it, it's like, I got a Bic, I'll barter you.
LOLOL. Yes, as long as you can stand it. Gray Mouse, appreciate you. Boxers or briefs? Commando, homie. Big affirmative there, Bear. Roger that. All right, what other questions we got? I appreciate y'all. Bear Nation, it's good to see you guys again. Thank you so much. At least a weekly brief if possible. Roger that. What's up, Hans? Tavar, what's up, Tavar? A large East Coast energy sector company plans to mandate jab as well. Militant Roots, what's going on? Garen, Shalom. Yeah, Bear does push downs. Sanctified Supply Co. John Adams. Damn right, yes, roger that. Liberty Off-Road. Steven Orsino. Pastor Joe said in one video that New York is one of the cities that the Bible mentions will be nuked. What page of the scriptures can I read up on that?
I already told that, but he has a video on his Patreon that covers that.
Sergey Phelps already told you that Pastor Joe has a video on his Patreon that covers that. Cracky Homesteader, shalom, sister. Megan Ginger, rest well, homies. Going to bed, roger that. What questions? Is a medical certification required to buy a stomp bag? No, Linda, it is not. You will have to check a box saying that if you poke a hole in somebody's heart with a decompression needle, that's your fault, not mine. But, yes. You do not need a medical certification to acquire a stomp bag. And in fact, we are currently in the process of putting together austere medicine. We need to have that call that we were going to have today, tomorrow. And there will be a stomp bag trainer involved in that class as well, which is going to be pretty cool.
We're looking at first quarter of next year.
Probably, yeah. Rat 2 folder. Wife says I already have too many. Advice. Boba Fett's laundry room. I don't know. Here's the Rat 1. I love it. I love it so much that I have 4 of them. Okay? So, Bear, are you guys going to have a class in Florida? We just did a class in Tallahassee. And then we've got some classes coming up in Alabama.
Yeah.
And
Birmingham's going to be the next closest.
Birmingham, Alabama will be the next closest class. And probably, I don't know, mid-2022, assuming that the government allows us to do our jobs. We may be back to Florida. Bear, what should the first med kit to buy and why? Tiger Man McCool. I'd get a Bear Fac. That's what I would get. It'll cover everything. And if not a Bear Fac, I would get an adventure kit. By the way, we have adventure kits in stock currently at the website, and the adventure kit covers everything from band-aids to broken bones to bullet holes. It's a very comprehensive kit. So, like-minded people in upstate New York area. Goldie, Hebrew forever. I know a thing or two about upstate New York. Orlando. Do we have an Orlando date coming?
Yes, we'll be there for the show.
Yeah, so we're going to the SWAT roundup in Orlando, so we'll be doing probably a Responder 1 while we're there as well. So stay tuned for the Orlando date. Bear, any classes in southern Wisconsin? I have a place. Not currently. The population density there is in the Bear Nation is a little slim. Birmingham, that's only 45 minutes from my house. All right, we'll see you there, Chad. Sounds good. Bearfac is the boss. What's up, Cat?
Any plans for a dental kit in the future?
Any plans for a dental kit? Actually, no. There's a plan for 2 dental kits in the future. A basic and a comprehensive. We're working with a gentleman by the name of the Prepper Dentist. Shout out to the Prepper Dentist, who is helping us develop both the basic kit and the comprehensive kit. Basic is like, I got a tooth owie, and it's a little SHTF-y. And comprehensive is like, bro, you're about to get some backwoods oral surgery. So we're in the process of putting that together. One of the frustrations with that is that the supply chains for dental stuff are not the same as the supply chains for medical stuff. And that like totally blew our minds. And we were like, yeah, you just give me some dental stuff too. They're like, oh no, we don't do dental. That's a whole different thing. And so we're having to build that back-end supply chain for all the dental stuff as well.
Thermal sight or PVS 14 if you can only afford one.
Thermal sight or PVS 14 if you can only afford one. So if you get a PVS 14, you're going to need a D-Bal or a PEC 15 or something like. You need a way to aim it. Now, some of the newer dot sights and prisms have a setting for night vision, but they have to be mounted way far forward because you have this in front of your face with the PVS 14. And so I think for most things, you're better off with the PVS 14 than the thermal sight. There's a lot of value to the thermal sight, but the PVS 14 can be used not just for operating, but for reconnaissance, intelligence gathering, LP, OP. I would recommend the PVS 14 over the thermal sight. And I'll also say this, ATN replaced this thing. They sent me another one of these, and thus far, the second one is working. You can see it's dripping because it was raining horrendously earlier. Thus far, it's working. This is the X-Sight 4K Pro digital night vision scope, and but it's not cheap. It's about $800, but it's a 5-to-20 digital zoom, and it works. You need an illuminator with it, but it does work. But I would not recommend that mounted on a rifle over a PVS 14. I'd rather have a PVS 14 for sure than have a thermal optic or a night vision optic. I would just rather have the PVS 14. Any new videos to the prepper classroom coming? Kenshin, not currently. It's something we've revisited a few times. I'm not entirely sure what else I need to present in whiteboard format at this time, but if you have suggestions, email us at admin and Bear Independent. If there's something you legitimately want to see the whiteboard format on, I'm happy to do it. I'm not going to say that I've exhausted the classroom content, but I don't know what we need to be shining light on with a whiteboard in that format currently. No, Chris Robertson. I have the box to an $800 scope sitting out in the rain. I might be dumb, but I ain't stupid. Let's see. I have PVS 14s. Get the standard military IR laser. Are there any other compatible models? Alan, there's lots of compatible models. Steiner D-Bal is probably the best one on the civilian market for the money. You're not going to be, you as a civilian can't go get a PEC 15. You can get things that are close to PEC 15s, but you can't, and do not get the $189 airsoft model, okay? It's just for looks. It doesn't do anything. John Fessenden, thank you. Herman Snurd, I've been told by a brother that you can fix anything with a hammer or duct tape. So, none your business. What else we got? Questions. Put your questions in all caps. I like it when you yell at me. Which platform is easier to insert a magazine when it's full? It depends. I don't like the ergonomics on an AK, but I love the chunk of an AK. An AR-15 is the bolt hold open is designed to be able to insert a fresh 30-round magazine, or 28 rounds if you want to download a little bit. The whole ergonomics of an AR-15 are phenomenal. What is the best way to relocate out of California? Step 1, call a Hertz rental and get a truck. Step 2, put all your shit in boxes. Step 3, throw it on the truck. Step 4, drive east, stop somewhere in between the Rocky Mountains and the Appalachian Mountains in a small town, buy a piece of land, live happily ever after. 29 all day. Well, Tavar, not everybody can operate as operationally as you operate, okay? Don't come to Oregon. Sarah Hoskins. I heard you were a little, Sarah Hoskins was recently inundated with pizza. Her neighbors ordered 10 pizzas. And Domino's contactless delivered it to her house to the wrong address. So they reordered pizza, and Domino's delivered another 10 pizzas to her house.
That's hilarious.
Military draft is a road to mandatory vax. Your thoughts? I don't know if a draft will be employed. It might be, although I find it's interesting now that women, y'all wanted equal rights, are now involved in the draft as well, or at least there's legislation to that effect currently. If you only had one thing in a situation, what would that one thing be? Glock? I don't know. Axe? She is the new supreme leader. If you get 20 pizzas delivered to your house, accidentally, you become the new supreme leader.
Someone earlier said, supreme leader just means they come with sour cream.
That's funny. Thoughts on southwestern Colorado for relocation and homesteading? I think it's a beautiful area of the country. I hate their gun laws. I hate a lot of Colorado's laws. Colorado would be great if it wasn't for all the Coloradans. Yeah, that's about all I'll say on that. New Hampshire's constitutional carry. Come on up. Think of all the laws I would be breaking to get there, Loy man. I will be praying for you, Brother Bear. Thank you, Don. I appreciate that. Start new businesses or find ones that do not require the jab. You need to give me a lot more data than that to work with, because I don't think everybody should start businesses. I don't think everybody has the entrepreneurial spirit. But if you do, and you've got the moves to do that, then I would do that, because you can employ other people that are like-minded and won't take the jab either. Ask me how I know. But if you're not entrepreneurial, if that's not your gifting, not your talent, not your delight, then I would find people who do operate that way, and I would get on their team. Because there's a lot of us that are like, hell no, I'm not doing it. And the fact that you're not doing it either resonates with me. It's the ethos of how we operate. I want to employ people and work with people who have the same core values that we do. Not necessarily that always think the same as we do, because it's good for other people to push back against whatever your plans and ambitions are, because you get to pressure test whatever it is that you're trying to do. Like, you don't want to be surrounded by yes men and yes women, but you do want to have people that are aligned with you as far as your convictions and your beliefs and your goals. What brand of helmet? I have a bunch of Brain Buckets by Billy, and I like them. He's difficult to get a hold of. You can find him on Instagram, I think. Homemade lung butter.
Is A1P still in business?
What?
Is A1P still in business?
No. Amendment 1 preparedness is no longer producing product.
David Smith's kid wants to be trans.
I saw that. Bear, my kid wants to be trans. What should I do? Raise them up in the way that they should go, and they will not depart from it when they are older. There's an underlying issue there, and I would have honest, serious conversations in love and find out what the underlying issue is. But read Genesis. He created them. Male and female, he created them. You are what you are. And some people, a very small subset of the population, does legitimately suffer from gender dysphoria. And that's a mental health issue. A lot of people are just doing it because it's the thing to do. Because their dumbass friends have put it in their mind that, well, hey, maybe you're gay. Or maybe you're bi. Or maybe you're trans. Or maybe you're non-binary. Or maybe whatever. So you should have at least as much influence over your children's decision-making process as their dumbass friends do. And you should sit them down and honestly talk to them in love and find out what is the underlying issue. Why do you feel this way? And also understand this. Feelings are not the be-all, end-all. Feelings are a biomechanical feedback mechanism for things that are stressing you out. Okay? Feelings are the first step in what do I need to do to rectify a situation. If I feel bad about something, that's an indicator that something's bad. I need to change the thing that's bad, not change myself to acquiesce to the thing that's bad. And so feelings, unfortunately, in today's day and age, are put on this pedestal as if they're the most important thing ever. And they are not. They are a biomechanical feedback mechanism that allows you, if you apply self-awareness, allows you to determine what are the things that are affecting you positively or negatively. Things that feel good. Oh, I like this. This is good. It feels good when I go rucking and do my PT. That's good. I feel good. Why do I feel good? Right? Biomechanical feedback mechanism. So just because they feel a certain way, that's the tip of the iceberg, bro. Feelings don't mean shit. They're the first step on the path to addressing whatever the underlying issue is. Later, Vester. Do you feel a .22 revolver, shotgun, and mini ruler is sufficient for one woman? You probably meant mini Ruger, like a Ruger Mini 14, and if you did, then I'd say yes, absolutely. But a mini ruler, I don't know. I mean, you know why women can't tell distance. It's because all their life they've been told that this is 8 inches. And this is not 8 inches. Get him, Peacekeeper. Get him, Badger. A .22 revolver, a shotgun, and a Ruger Mini 14, if that's what you meant, is sufficient for a woman. Yeah, Ruger Mini 14 chambers, .223 round. You know, it's a little bit older, you know, 60s, 70s technology. It's based off the M1 carbine gas tappet system. It's a good gun. Proprietary mags, but it's a good gun. And they're not the most accurate, but they're roughly 4 MOA, which also turns out is essentially the battle standard for combat rifle. So they're, if you can shoot it, go for it. And they're handy. They're little compact handy guns. I like them. .22 revolver, for dispatching rabbits, maybe. The .22 is not a reliable self-defense round. It's not a man-stopping round. It's just not. And I don't give a crap who says what in the prepper community. One of my favorite YouTubers of all time, been on YouTube 12, 13 years, Nothing Fancy. His bug-out kit is all based on .22 long rifle, and I vehemently disagree. His whole thing is size and weight constraints. I can carry a lot of .22. You're absolutely right. You can carry a lot of .22. But I have shot butchering sheep. I have shot a sheep in the head 4 times with a .22 and had it stand there and look at me. Okay, you shoot it in the head once with a 5.56. Sucker is down. I shot a raccoon in the face from 7 yards away with a .22 as it was eating one of my chickens, and it did not die. It instead sneezed and blew feathers out of its face and then ran away. So the concept that, well, there's no replacement for shot placement. Well, first of all, regardless of shot placement, in the head did not get the job done. Next, go put your rucksack on. Walk all day. I want you to go bang out 10, 12, 15, maybe even 20 miles all day with your rifle. And at the end of the day, now all of a sudden, I want you to do a react to contact drill, and I want you to take that 22 caliber weapon and make hits at 200 yards with your pack on while scrambling for cover in a vital zone, and tell me you wouldn't rather have just an actual friggin' battle rifle. I want 5.56 is an intermediate cartridge. It's not even a rifle round. It's an intermediate cartridge. I at least want a 5.56. So, depending on what you're doing with the 22 revolver, maybe. But I don't love it, but I'm okay with it. But if it's what you have, it's what you have. And shotguns, one of my favorite shotgun quotes ever is Clint Smith, Thunder Ranch. A shotgun at the appropriate range with the appropriate load will literally pick shit up and throw it against the wall. Yeah, love that guy. Bear, face is looking thin. Thanks, Greenlight. 76239, so affordable. Used to be. IDF uses the 1022. Yeah, you know what? So do American Special Forces. They don't issue them to every soldier. They're very, very specific rounds. Very specific applications for that round. There's a news article I saw yesterday of a guy who woke up with a headache and was complaining to his girlfriend about the headache that he had. She brushed him off, went to the hospital. Turns out she had shot him in the head with a 22, tried to kill him. And you know what happened? The round hit his skull, turned and went up subcutaneous underneath the skin, lodged in between the skin and his skull with a 22. So, you will not change my mind. You just won't do it. I grew up on a farm. I was poor. I've killed all kinds of things with a 22 rifle, and I've eaten all those things that I killed with a 22 rifle. And I would much rather shoot something with a 5.56 because I know it's going to die, or a 7mm Remington Magnum ballistic tip 150 grain bullet than a 22. If it's the only thing I have, I'll make it work. But I'd rather it not be the only thing that I have. Okay, good. What else we got? Shift them gears, bro.
If you had a Gen 1 verified, and you could only change one thing, what would it be?
If I had a Gen 1 Bear Fac,
you only change or add one thing,
and I could only change one thing, what would it be? Probably what I would do, because of the pouch that's in the Gen 1, I would get this insert. I would get the bag-only option from the store. Honestly, that's what I would do. Because it's basically the same contents. And I would get this insert so that it's actually set up, because the Gen 1 was just a pouch. It wasn't the organized inner pouch like this. That's probably what I would do. And then if you weren't keen on that, I would add Quick Clot rolled gauze to it, because we were using commercial Quick Clot strips on the Gen 1, and it's a good product, but it's the commercial product, not the military specification product. So that's what I would do. But I think I'd probably go with the bag only option at the store and get a Gen 2.5 bag, and the current issue bag, and move the contents out of the Gen 1 into the current issue bag. It's a good question. Is AVT in the house? I haven't seen him. He's probably out there saving people's lives through stoicism and personal responsibility and telling people to get out of their own heads and get their shit together. Love that, brother. SWAT roundup. Been there. Okay. Question here. Hey, Bear, what's your list of decent states to move to? Washington sucks. Well, I like Oklahoma. I like Texas. New Mexico was beautiful. Missouri is a good state. Arkansas is a pretty good state. I don't think it's as good as Oklahoma, but I do think that there's more economic opportunity in northwestern Arkansas than there is in southwestern Missouri or eastern Oklahoma. But the cost of living is way higher in northwestern Arkansas than it is here as well.
Someone recently moved to Oklahoma and wanted to know if you think that Oklahoma is going to be a safe haven during the coming craziness.
Yes, I do. So if you didn't hear Phelps, somebody has recently moved to Oklahoma and wants to know if I think that Oklahoma will be a safe haven in the coming craziness. I do. I do think that we will likely see balkanization of the United States of America, meaning that we will go from these 50 United States, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Gosh, I wish that was actually a thing. But I think we're going to go from that to balkanization. I think Texas, at some point, will figure out, they'll do the cost-benefit analysis. Every state will do the cost-benefit analysis of what do they gain by being associated with the federal government. And sooner or later, especially when the government continues to go broke and continues to overstep its boundaries, these states will figure out one by one, you know what, I don't want to play this game anymore. We're seceding, we're stepping away, we're not doing this. And there's half the country thinks the current administration is illegitimate anyway. And so as that illegitimacy spreads from the pretender-in-chief to the institutions of federal government, states will step away. I think Texas will step away and Oklahoma will go with them. And I think Arklitexahomus is a real thing. I think you'll probably see Arkansas, Louisiana, Texas, Oklahoma become its own thing.
Missouri and Kansas might even tag
Missouri and Kansas might even tag along.
along.
New Mexico might be like, hey, don't forget about us. Yeah. You know, I mean, who knows? The desert Southwest will likely be a region, and the upper Midwest, the coasts, obviously, the South. Well, the South has already tried to do their own damn thing. Hey, Bear, in Catan, do you prefer the trade port for sheep or Woodmore? Woodmore. My real life and Catan are very similar. I very rarely need more sheep. Actually, in Catan, my biggest issue seems to be hay. But I dominate in Catan.
When you let the people know that you do not have bees, and whether you've shot any Nephilim recently?
I don't have bees because we have a neighbor who has 13 hives. And we love them and they love us. So I don't personally have bees, although I very much so thought about it. And I tell you guys, when I point a finger at you and say you need to get your agriculture squared away, I'm pointing 3 of them back at me. We have got to get better at row crops, and part of getting better at row crops, I want to introduce pollinators, including honeybees, but I'm just not there yet. And have I shot any Nephilim yet lately? No, not lately. No, I think I bounced a couple out of a bar once or twice back in the day, but I haven't shot any. There's been 0 Sasquatch sightings here, but I know somewhere in southeastern Oklahoma. Shalom, Vicky Fulkerson. What's up, sister? Somewhere in southeastern Oklahoma, they had a legit Bigfoot sighting, and like the National Bigfoot Coalition deployed their people down there, and blah blah blah.
So I actually read about this too. Are you tracking on the deer that tested positive for COVID antibodies? In 2020. So they discovered a deer that has the COVID antibodies, indicating that it had it long before we found out about it.
So the deer now have COVID as well?
Yeah.
You know what? That is not going to stop me from eating those critters come deer season. I got a 6-pointer that walks out, no lie, 60 yards from where I'm sitting right now. So I'm not even going to have to get out of my chair.
Yeah.
I'm just going to turn around, grab this rifle, swing that thing to about 3 power. I already got a 50 grain AMAX in there. Pah! Safe the weapon, hang it back up.
And it's en route to where it would be.
Yeah, and it's right next to where we're going to hang it and butcher it anyway. Yeah, that little 6-pointer ain't going to know what hit him, man. Have you heard Sasquatch screams during the night in your area? I have. Straight up, I have. And at first I was like, what is that? I got chills. I Googled it, and then I got even more chills. And I'm not kidding. You know what shuts them up? In fact, I honestly think, straight up, I think we had some around here, and I don't think we do anymore. Because you know what shuts them up? 3 blasts from a shofar. They go quiet. And I don't think that they're good. And I think when they hear the Father's trumpets blowing, they're like, ah, shit. Those guys? All right, we're leaving.
They might be Nephilim. You're like...
They might be.
It didn't work out too well for us last time. That's we heard those ones.
What boomstick would you recommend for us Canadians? I recently picked up an SKS, but what are your thoughts? They took our black guns away. I don't really know what you're allowed to do by your supreme nacho leader there and not, but the SKS is not a bad platform. Henry Chan at 9-Hole Reviews with Josh Mazzola, which I love that channel, by the way. If you're not following 9-Hole Reviews, go check those guys out. They're awesome channel. But Henry ran their service rifle course 150 to 500 with an SKS. Henry's an awesome shooter, but he proves that that platform is quite capable. The 7.62 sometimes short, slow, and fat does win the race. You know, again, it's an intermediate cartridge. It's not a bad platform. It's not a bad platform at all. My other Bigfoot is a Subaru. Bear Independent, can't wait to sit down and win with my blackout this year. I'm running subs now, 225 grain, but we'll hunt with something like a 160. 16-inch Palmetto Anderson lower, Romeo 2 dot. I like that Romeo 2, man. I really do. Stop the Bleed Class 2 in the Midwest. Indianapolis is live right now on the website. Nashville, Tennessee is live right now on the website, and there will be more dates posting. So, I think 7mm Remington Magnum works on Bigfoot. I think it works on everything. What's up, Faux Daddy? Backwoods Basset is a great question. I did not see it. I'll scroll a little bit. Footwear for SHTF, if I could only take one pair. Well, here's the wonderful thing about living on a homestead and being a professional prepper. I get to try stuff all the time. Who goes there? Who dat? It's UPS? Bro, this is how you get shot around here. Just put that on the table. I'm talking to 1,449 people right now. You want to say hi? Come here. Come here, UPS guy. Look at this trespasser.
What's going on, everybody?
Go back to work.
Yes, sir.
Actually, don't go home.
I want to. Trust me. I got about 10 stops left.
Really? Have a good one, man. Hey, don't get the COVID.
Yes, sir.
Okay. All right. So, what boots would I take if I had to take them? Honestly, these are my Rocky Snake boots. They're like 18-inch tall, 20-inch tall. They're waterproof. They've got thin Thinsulate in them. They're snake-proof. They're camo. And yes, bear has big feet because I'm a friggin' bear. Okay, so these are size 13s wides. And as you can see, I use them and abuse them. They're relatively lightweight. Again, they've got a little bit of insulation in them. So in the summer with some thin socks, that's great. It helps wick the moisture away from your feet. In the winter, you put some wool socks on and it keeps your feet warm. I already said they're waterproof. They've got decent soles on them. And they're rigid enough to give you decent support. But they're flexible enough for... This is what I ruck in all the time. And I was wearing these and basketball shorts today running a chainsaw out on the homestead. I've noticed, by the way, I'm getting a little weird. We're going to talk about that for a minute. But these are Rocky brand snake boots, and they are a recommend. I really, really like them. And in fact, I'm gonna slip my feet into them right now because it's actually getting kind of chilly on the back porch in August. Anybody out there watch Suspicious Observers? Like, and Adapt 2030, and of course Christian the Ice Age Farmer. I'm like, I'm totally bought into this concept of like, yeah, it's climate change, but it's not getting hotter, bro. It's August. It's August, and it's chilly on my back porch right now. Clarence Marino, Brother Bear, how do you lose weight so fast, man? You look great. Thank you. I PT my ass off, literally. Suspicious Observers rocks. I agree. Oregon's getting hotter. So, yeah, I was thinking about this today while I was running a steel MS362 in a logging helmet and a t-shirt and basketball shorts and snake boots on the homestead. I was like, I've kind of turned into that guy that like just doesn't go to town that much, and with a Glock on my hip, and like, you know, and so I'm out here like running a chainsaw in basketball shorts, blue basketball shorts, with camo boots and a OD green t-shirt, as if this is normal, and I realized like it is normal for me, but it's not normal for everybody else. And this whole like, we just do what we want to do. We do what we want to do. We just kind of do whatever the hell we feel like doing. And that's a real blessing. But it's also a lifestyle choice. Like, yeah, you have to get to the point where you're willing to quit whoring in Babylon and give up all the shiny baubles and doodahs and take some personal responsibility for your life. You know, I recently answered a question on Patreon, did an 18-minute video on this. Somebody was like, you know, I want to come out of her, my people, and move out into the country, but how am I going to earn a living? It's like, well, luckily for you, I grew up poor out in the country. You don't really do one thing, you do like a dozen different things, and they all kind of add up to making a living. And you just do what you got to do.
Speaking of things you did growing up, thoughts on still MS-261 versus a Husky 550 Mark II?
A 260 versus a 550?
261 versus 551 Mark II. A 550 Mark II.
That Husky's way bigger than the Steel. I mean, that's not an apples to apples comparison. I'd say if you're gonna a Husky 550, I'd look at a Steel 500i, not a 261. 261 is a great saw. It's great for limbing and for smaller felling jobs and bucking jobs. A lot of climbers will use them when they're bucking out big wood after they've take the limbs out, take the top out, and they're just dropping logs. The 261, 262 series it's a very good saw, but it's not a 550.
What's up, brother? Ask that.
Bear, do you watch Southern Prepper 1 or Black Scout Tactical? A little bit. I believe they're both subscribed to our channel, though, which is cool. Buddy Winters got all excited at Big Wood. I served meteorologist in the Navy. GSM magnetic reversals are real. Used to run Ice Age prepping, fire and ice in the end times. Copy that, Crypto Homegirl. They're, from my research, the equivalent. Well, I'm a Steel fan over Husqvarna. I'm a Steel fan. I just like Steel more than I like Husky. Not that Husky makes a bad saw. It's like saying, you know, Budweiser or Coors, Chevy or Ford, you know, blondes, brunettes, or redheads. Like, but I like Steel. I ran a 362 most of the day today, and I love it. It's a great saw. It's an absolutely great saw. And then I also ran, because we were cutting a lot of armwood, just smaller diameter stuff, I ran a little 171 with a little 16-inch Pico bar on it, and I love it. It weighs less than a gallon of milk, man, and it just tears it up. Echo, double question mark. Not bad saws, not my favorite. Backwoods Bassin. What do you think about a 16-inch 5.56 stainless Bear Creek Arsenal upper? I got the side charge one. I haven't really tried it. I got an upper sent to me by Bear Creek Arsenal because they were like, hey, you're Bear Independent, we're Bear Creek, we should party. And I was like, cool, send me something. So they sent me an upper that, no lie, I shot a video for it for Patreon. No lie, at 100 yards from a bench, the best group I could get out of it was 10 inches. 100 yards from a bench, and it took 80 rounds of ammo to get it on paper. It was so erratic. And I don't mean not just cheap ammo. I mean, it shot MagTech like garbage, but it shot IMI Razor Core like garbage. I was not at all impressed with it. I sent it back to Bear Creek Arsenal, and I wrote on the inside of the box, "This S is unacceptable." And I never heard another word from him. It was absolute garbage. And I talked to some friends of ours at the local FFL place that we use, and they said that they end up, about every other Bear Creek upper that they get, they end up returning because it doesn't do what it's supposed to do. That's a pretty bad indicator to me. I'm not a fan. Mine was a 223 Wild. I do not have it anymore. I sent it back to them because it was useless. At 100 yards, bench rest, 10-inch group, GTFO. I like 10-inch group at 800 yards. Like, that's acceptable. At 100, negative. I know my 249 cuts timber as well as any steel saw, and it's more fun. Well, whatever floats your boat, homie. Let's get into a pissing contest. Let's do it.
Light apparently has an infrared white light rifle light.
Who does?
Light on sale. White light.
Do they? PSA still good to go for you? Absolutely, Scott. I've had nothing but good experiences with PSA. Yeah, I've run Johnson Red Saws. Some change to mix liquor and shooting for fun. Tim S., bless you. Thank you.
How long can you store gas and diesel?
How long can you store gas and diesel? 1 to 2 years with additives. But if you live in a humid environment, it's going to be less than that, because the plastic cans, as they breathe, the moisture in the air will sweat into the fuel. And even with additives, it'll degrade that over time. So around here, the reality is about 6 months. Unless it's an absolutely airtight container that's been filled to the brim. But 1 to 2 years with additives. I love my PSA builds. I have a 20-inch PSA chrome line cold hammer forged barrel DMR rifle in 5.56 that is just, I can shoot this iPhone at 500 yards all day. All day. It's absolutely awesome. I've got a Primary Arms 4-14 Arc 2 MOA on top of that. I love it. My go-to night vision rifle is a PSA 16-inch pencil barrel. Weighs nothing. Weighs under 7 pounds. And it's got over 4,000 rounds through it. Absolutely awesome gun. Runs incredibly well. I've got a couple of PSA pistols. I've got 2 PSA AKs. And I love them. Gosh, I love them. Just everything I've gotten from PSA has been very good to excellent. I have a PSA 20-inch 308 heavy barrel with an FN CHF barrel on it, Fabrique Nationale barrel, and chambered in 308 on an AR-10 platform. And it is boringly accurate. Obnoxiously, boringly, it's just accurate. It's a heavy gun, but that helps to settle it down. And shooting from unconventional shooting positions, I'll hit whatever the hell I want to hit with that gun, however far out I want to hit it with. I got a 3-18 Vortex on top of that thing, and it just rocks. It just rocks. It's a great gun. And I think all in, this was back in the day, before, the Wuhan flu, but I think it's like I've got $1,000 into the gun, not including the glass, but like I got $1,000 into it. And it's like, oh, you want to smack a an IPSC target at 1,000 meters, okay, it'll do it. And are there other guns that cost way more than that will do that? For sure. But that gun will do it, and it was $1,000 with the upper and the lower. Give me 1 second. I gotta move this fan. It's actually chilly. I got it.
If you feel like it, you might want to cover what prompted you to move out of Texas.
What prompted me to move out of Texas?
Someone who lives in Oklahoma is feeling adventurous and thinking about moving to Texas, I guess.
So somebody who lives in Oklahoma wants to move to Texas. Why did I move from Texas to Oklahoma?
Right.
So I lived in North Texas, north of Dallas, was working in Dallas every day. And by all materialistic standards, living the dream. Brick home, nice neighborhood, 2 cars, good kids, going to church on Sunday. And you know what? I was miserable because it was all a facade. And even the good people that were there in North Texas were still playing the game. And I just got tired of playing the game. My kids were determining their self-worth based upon how much their sneakers cost and what kind of iPhone that they had. And it was really putting me in a bad mental place. I knew that it wasn't right. And then the straw that broke the camel's back, that was in 1 week on the road that we lived on, which was a secondary surface road. It wasn't the main drag. In 1 week, 2 kids got hit by 2 different drivers who ran stop signs because they were driving like assholes. And 1 kid made it and 1 kid didn't. And I looked at my wife and I said, if that ever happens to our kids, you will lose a child and a husband, because I will drag that person out of that car and turn them into hamburger with my fists. I do not have the self-control to not do that. And that was the beginning of the calling for us to leave North Texas. And we saved for 3 years. I worked every additional hour that I could. I did every additional job that I could. We destroyed our debt. We murdered our debt. We got out of debt. We started looking for land. We offered on 2 other pieces of property other than this one. Tried to live in Arkansas a couple of times, and it wasn't the Father's plan. And then my wife actually found this piece of land, and by the hand of the Father, here we are. But the materialism and the rat race of North Texas was what did it for me. And my family has been in Texas for 200 years. We have a Morris County in Texas is named after my relatives. There is a Morris family cemetery in Morris County filled with people that I share DNA with. Okay, we've been in Texas for 200 years. I'm not doing it anymore. And I don't dislike Texas. I just think that Texans can be oblivious to the changes, the fundamental changes that are happening in their state because of the politics and the shifting demographics of Texas. And I've pissed a lot of people off by saying Texas is not as Texas as it thinks it is. Well, it's not. I've worked so far south in Texas, I had to drive through Border Patrol checkpoints to get to work every day. I've worked in all them giant fan things in West Texas. I helped put them there. I worked in the East Texas piney woods. I've worked in the hill country. I've worked down around San Antonio and Austin. I lived outside of Dallas, North Central Texas. I've been all through Texas, all through it. And I love what the state is about. I just don't think it's as about it as it used to be. And there's a real danger there that if people don't get serious about defending the Texas way of life, that it's going to fall by the wayside. And I'm not interested. For me, North Texas was whoring in Babylon. And I'm not interested in doing that. And so that's why we're in Oklahoma now.
Right on this, had a question.
Okay.
Post Mad Max, how do you filter who to bring into camp, and outside of personnel, what to bring into camp? Do certain physical assets make you more prone to tracking, cost benefit, etc.? Tracking infiltration.
How far back in the comments was that?
Always.
A ways. Okay, so that was tread on this. And he said post Mad Max, how do you determine who to bring into camp and what to bring into camp?
Yeah. Who to bring into camp and outside of personnel, what to bring into camp. Do certain physical assets make you more prone to tracking, infiltration, cross-benefit, etc.?
So basically what KPIs, key performance indicators, are there for bringing people and stuff into camp post an event? Well, my take on that is we're not recruiting once the balloon goes up. We're not recruiting now. So if I'm not recruiting now, I'm not recruiting once the balloon goes up. That being said, the Father has this uncanny ability to continuously bring people to us, which is awesome. We just had another person that we love move into the area. Unexpected, unannounced, just like, hey, I'm here now. It's like, what? That's awesome. And so that just keeps happening, which is great. But we're not recruiting now, so I don't have any intention of recruiting afterwards. I balance that by, I firmly believe the Father's going to send people. In fact, part of our preparedness stance, I mean, we make refugee buckets. We think that there will be people that the Father will send. And so knowing that, Shalom, Mad Kelt, knowing that the Father is going to send people, I would lean on wisdom and discernment for that. But you also have to be wise in that. And so I would look at, in your camp, how do you receive new people? Do you isolate them? What if there is an actual pandemic going on? What if you really do need to quarantine people? Do you have the facilities, even if it's some tents or a barn or a carport, to isolate new people and to be able to observe them and administer to them for a couple of weeks to get the lay of the land, to determine, are these people worth doing life with? Do you disarm them during this time? I'll tell you, for me, the answer to that is yes. I don't want people that I don't know within my purview that are armed. Because one person at 3 o'clock in the morning with a firearm can wreak a lot of havoc. We'll get you, but man, you could do a lot of damage in the meanwhile. So it's not worth taking that risk. As far as who to recruit, who not to recruit, listen, if a special forces medic or a surgeon or an ER nurse or, people in general are valuable. But if these skill sets walk up that you need, then that's a determination you have to make. The thing that I really don't like about that is I don't want to be put in a position where I'm having to potentially cut corners on my vetting process because I didn't develop relationships with people like that now. What's up, sweetie? Did you color this castle?
Mm-hmm.
That is so good.
Hi, Jada.
Stays in the lines and everything.
Look at that. That is so good. You did a really good job.
Thanks.
What color is this?
Pink, red, well, a pinkish.
A pinkish?
Yeah.
Is this orange?
Yeah.
Good job. Yellow?
Yeah, that's yellow.
That's Lello. Okay.
And then we have some blue and red at the top.
Very good.
And I also colored the flag.
You did a really good job. I like it. Is that my castle?
It's for you and I. You and Mom.
Oh, for me and Mom? Okay. Thank you. High five. Good job. Run along. Go play in traffic. Right, Tavar? I know, he's growing like a weed. I didn't color that well when I was 10, right? And so look at the divine timing of that. You need to be careful who you let into your life, because the whole reason that we prepare in the first place is to protect, provide for, and bless these little ones and the people that we love. And so I don't want to be put in a position where I'm compromising my vetting process because a high-value individual shows up. Will I consider them if that happens? Yes, I will. But I would rather be building those relationships now. As far as like equipment, we were just joking earlier today. Is it stealing the skid steer if it's still here when the balloon goes up, or is that just stewardship? You know, like, I don't know. But I really think it comes down to wisdom and discernment and calculated risk, and having ways to mitigate that calculated risk. If you have unknown factors, you need a way to assuage those unknown factors, to address those unknown factors to the best of your ability before you just let random people in. And if they're truly random people you should have pressed out from your base of operations into your AO to know that random people are coming in the first place, and have a plan to administer those people as if they were refugees. You don't feed stray dogs because they end up living at your house, right? But you can feed them down the road or in town or whatever. You can have wool blankets and water bottles and beans and rice for people, but you don't want to be handing that out at your mailbox, all right? But as you're handing those things out, you might find of the 12 people you help that there's 2 of them that the spirit is really working on you, and they seem like good people, and they've got a 5-year-old son that's, they do just good people. Okay, cool. Now you can think about, how do I integrate these people in on a trial basis? And that trial basis is really important, because when people walk into your camp, there's a ton you can learn just from looking around, right? And so visibility and access is a big thing as well. So where do you put those people? Not in the heart of the camp, not on day one, right? You have to earn your way into the inner circle, because one person can do a ton of damage. And that's why I'm not actively recruiting after the balloon goes up. It's just not a viable strategy for me. Balanced by, I know the Father's going to send people, and I feel it is my job to be obedient when He says, hey, these people, they're for you. Okay, copy that.
Do we have any need for a lawyer?
Do we have a need for a lawyer? Always. What's up?
Tell Liberty Off-Road to email you where you want him to email you.
Liberty Off-Road, email us at admin@Bear-Independent, please. Your character and your word seem to be key factors in this new society. Raptor Meat, I agree. I think up until recently, your character and your word were important in the society that we had. We've somehow progressed into a society now where you can be an a-hole and not get punched in the face. 50 years ago, if you acted like an a-hole, you got punched in the face. It was a pretty short-lived experience. I think where we are headed, necessarily, there's less frothiness in the system. There's less overhead largesse in the system to be able to literally and figuratively afford the a-holes. And so that's going to fall by the wayside. There's going to be a lot of snowflakes that are going to melt, because there's going to be a contracting of that largesse.
Is multi-cam included in green?
Multicam is not included in the Green 15 deal. Need to bring face punching back. Weed out the soy boys. I agree. 100 years ago, a-holes got an extra hole. That's exactly right, Marvin. And you were careful to not be one because you could get ventilated. Multicam is not included in green. Right. Late to the show, but glad I'm here. What's up, Dana Freeman? Still running water cat systems or solar wells? They seem affordable these days. So we're in the process of setting up for rainwater catchment. And then, yes, we have minimum solar to run the wells, but not as robust of solar as I would like to have. But that's coming. There's a multi-step process here. Although if we continue to slowly circle the drain, I may turn the volume up on that multi-step process. I might expedite a little bit. Zach Starmer, it's okay. We forgive you. Been punched in the face. I feed on that. Yeah?
Serge would like to know, how much do you share with your kids about what's going on today? Are they able to understand what's going on?
How much do I share with my kids about what's going on today? So my 4-year-old is insulated completely from any of this nonsense. My 4-year-old knows that she is loved and protected and that no harm will ever come to her as long as there is breath in daddy's lungs. And that's my job as daddy. She knows that. And she gets it, which is great. And she does not need to know any more than that. My teenagers, we have honest conversations with them. And we don't quite treat them like adults, but we don't coddle them either. We tell them what we feel that they need to know so that they can understand better how and why we are operating in the ways that we are operating in. Why do we do what we do? Raise them up in the way that they should go, and they will not depart from it when they are older. You also got to remember your kids are OPSEC issues. And so it's important that your kids know what we discuss here and what we don't discuss anywhere else. What information is for dissemination and what isn't. I've told my kids, like, you don't need to tell everybody at your school that, hey, we're a bunch of preppers, because if they show up, I really don't want to have to be bodying your friends in the street. And that never occurred to them until I had to explain it to them. We don't want desperate people at our mailbox, and so you need to not be sharing that information. And so, but we do talk about political things. We talk about spiritual things. We talk about socioeconomic things. But we also they still need to understand, just like the 4-year-old, it is daddy's job to provide for you, to protect you, and to bless you. And no harm will ever come to you as long as there is breath in my lungs. It will not happen. But because the world is less certain now than it was when I was a kid, we need to be more certain in the things that we're doing. We need to take more personal responsibility on our end so that we can maintain the stability that we need to have in our home and we need to have in our community. One-legged prepper. What's up, one-legged prepper? I've been eating a pork-free diet and it changed my life. Yep, that's in Leviticus chapter 11. Almost.
Bartholomew Roberts was just stirring the pot. It's the second comment he's made that so I did him.
That's fine. People can let them talk trash, but you can get them for sure.
Yeah, he's done.
Sack 4498. Praise Yahweh and blessings from Texas. Which solar system would you like to invest more in? And are there any generators that are practical for power replacement that won't alert everyone to your location? So I'll start with the second part first. There's not. The propane generators are much quieter, generally speaking, than gasoline or diesel. And if you get a generator, a big one, a pedestal-mounted generator that's in an enclosure, they're pretty quiet. They're a lot quieter than the 5, 7, 10,000 watt generators, that have the little wheels and the handle on them that you roll over and plug into the side of your house. Those things are loud. Pedestal mounted transformer is much quieter than those, but they still make a good bit of noise, which is why they're mounted inside an enclosure on a pedestal, usually inside some type of privacy fence to mitigate line of sight as well as noise transmission. And if you got one of those big propane fire generators or natural gas generators, big enough to run your whole house, and you had a 1,000-gallon tank to run it with, you're talking 2 to 4 weeks of run time. So that's really not a long-term strategy. That's more of a, and maybe longer depending on the model that you get and your usage in your house, but it's not a long-term thing. And so that's more of a natural disaster, interruption of service type thing, not a long-term event. As far as solar, which system would I like to invest in? It's just a basic photovoltaic system, probably going to end up being somewhere in the 14 kilowatt range. And that will allow us to run our refrigeration and to run our electric pumps, i.e. wells, and to run some lights and a few other things. But it will not be it won't run the entire house as if we were hooked up to the grid, because you don't get 100% efficiency. There's some days you're lucky to get 30% efficiency. So, How long would a 5,000 gallon tank last? Rough estimate. Oh man, it depends. Concrete, but you know, it could last maybe 10 weeks. You know, 2.5 months. Pissed off hermit got banned for life from Facebook, Tweeters, and Instagram. YouTube is all that's left. Except Tumblr and MeWe. Guessed I'm doing something right. Thank you, brother. Thank you, pissed off hermit. I appreciate your $50 bill. That's very kind of you. Thank you to everybody who's been in the super chat tonight. And guys, I'm really encouraged. We're 2.5 hours into this. We've still got 1,200 people on. Thank you guys so much. Michael T, what's up, brother? Any hydro opportunities? Not without redirecting the flow of water, and even then it would be minimum. We are blessed with a lot of water here, but it doesn't flow at the volume that would make it viable for any decent amount of hydroelectricity. I could charge a cell phone, maybe a car battery with hydroelectricity, but that's about it based upon the rate of flow that we have. Can you please turn on captions for death? Keith Miller, I think you do that on your end, brother. I don't think that that's on my end. I asked the same question when I was younger. Talked to pastors, they explained it to me, but I forgot what changed. But it mainly had to do with cooking is what it amounted to. I don't know what that's talking about. Taborosaurus Rex.
That guy managed to stir up some crap in Mondays.
It's just talking about dietary laws. That's fine.
Yeah.
Adrian, what's up, brother? Do you smoke dope? I do not. I'm the world's worst high person. Really, if I had 2 hits of weed right now, I'd be in my hayfield with an entire roll of tinfoil wrapped around my head, screaming at the sky with an AK in one hand and a hand grenade in the other, waiting for the Illuminati to come down out of the sky with their mothership and take me to the re-education camp. I am the worst high person you ever met. Bear, have you ever considered protein powder to include in line gear Bob long-term storage? Yes, I have a significant amount of protein powder in long-term storage. Just make sure, if you can, get the stuff that's not made with soy estrogen bullcrap. But yeah, I've absolutely considered it. And ideally you want the type that can work with both milk and water, because you're very likely going to have a lot more water than milk. But yeah, I have considered it. I do it. Something that I have found as well is it will not store for any great length of time just in cardboard boxes, because it's pretty sweet and rodents will chew through the cardboard and chew through the packaging and get into it. So you want to put it in like tote bins or buckets or something like that. Yeah, so to Sanctified's comment, pot would be a good prep item. It's got a lot of medicinal uses. I don't disagree with that statement. I just personally can't do it. Not function. Say we survive 5 years after SHTF, then what? That's why we covered under the 4 pillars of preparedness. The number 1, the first pillar is people, and under the heading of people is continuity of community. The same thing people have been doing forever. Raise your children in the way that they should go, so they do not depart from it when they are older. Love the Lord your God with everything that you've got. Love your neighbor as yourself. Love your wife. Do meaningful things. Leave a legacy. Raise cattle. Raise sheep. Grow the best damn tomatoes you possibly can. Take a swim in the creek. You know, do something meaningful. Study the word. Fellowship with brothers. Reprove and instruct one another. It's continuity of community. That's should honestly, I think, should be on all of us, on all of our radar, just in general, in life. Like, say the world never ends. And honestly, I hope that it doesn't end. If the world never ends, what did you contribute to life? Is the world a better place because you were here? Did you meaningfully impact people's lives? Were you able to teach somebody something or help somebody through a dark time or give them a piece of advice or a kind word or pray over somebody? Like, what's your legacy? What's your impact? It's continuity of community, bro.
Did you see that Rex popped in?
Mm-hmm. I saw that Rex popped in. That's a good brother right there. Blue Dangly Mafia. You know, I find that Amazon sells moonshine stills, and they come with instructions. If you have a water source and grow corn, you can have an endless supply of tradable stuff. Mrs. Sanders, I don't know about moonshine, but if you ever need to make some ethanol truck fuel, you take a 5-gallon bucket and you put 5 gallons of water in it and 5 pounds of sugar and 5 pounds of cornmeal and 5 packages of yeast at 105 degrees for 5 days, and then you cook it at 175 degrees in the pressure vessel, and you get 5 quarts of truck fuel. That's about 185 proof. It's the rule of the fives. I'm not saying I know anything about it or that I've ever tried it once or twice or 3 or 4,000 times. But, yeah, it's really not that difficult. And if you had some wild cherries and some raspberries and you put it in your mash and you cook that up, and then you take strips of oak that you've charred with the torch, and you take your strips of oak and you put it inside of your mason jar, and then you pour your ethanol truck fuel in there that was mashed with blackberries and wild cherries, and you leave it in the jar for 2 weeks, and then you filter it through a coffee filter, and you take simple syrup, 50-50 honey and water, and you add about 4 ounces of that to that. Then you get honey, bourbon, wild cherry, blackberry truck fuel that comes in somewhere around 160 proof. And I'm just going to say your truck would really enjoy that. So.
What trees would you plant for lumber?
What trees would I plant for lumber? Longleaf pine. If you're just making dimensional lumber. Jack pine is another one. Jack pine is not really revered by the industry because of its high growth rate, and so the rings, the tightness of the rings aren't as good as old growth, but you'll get a harvest pretty quick. Somebody said, is Hami sick also? And she is. But praise the Father, we're all doing okay. I saw a guy distill moonshine using sweet feed as his mash. I imagine that would work. It's just corn and molasses. I imagine that would work great. Huh, I never thought about that.
Yeah. How long does yeast...
Shalom, Liberty.
How long does yeast keep?
How long does yeast keep? So after about a year, it loses its efficacy. But I just get the big industrial packages of yeast, and I, not shrink wrap, vacuum seal them, throw them in buckets or in bins, and just double it. Use 2 packages instead of 1.
But heat is a big deal with yeast.
Heat is a big deal with yeast. Over 120 degrees, it's going to die off. Oh, Bear Engine is in the house? Man, we got an all-star cast tonight.
Do you have battery storage tied to your solar?
Do you have battery storage tied to your solar? Not currently. We have very small-scale solar currently. It's for individual tasks. It's not a distributed system. What we will be building is a distributed system. When I say distributed, it will be mounted to the barn. Thank you, Albany, Oregon Skywatcher. Bless you. It'll be mounted to the barn, and it will serve the barn. It will serve the house. It will serve the outhouse. It will serve the gazebo. It will serve the well house, and it will serve the cabin in the cove that we're building as well. And so we'll have 6 different buildings or facilities that all have distributed electricity on my own microgrid using photovoltaic solar panels. And what's up, Okie Storm Chaser? I gotta get with you on sheep homicide at some point just to make sure we're all squared away for the fall feast. So you text me or I'll text you or whatever. Yes, Tabar.
That's all I'm laughing at.
Bear, I had a thought. Who knew the Ozarks would be such a good exporter of YouTubers? Dragon Shield. Well, I think So there's YouTubers everywhere, right? But I do think it speaks to the underlying issue that one of the places, not the only place, but one of the places that the Father is absolutely calling his people is to the Ozarks. Like, it's something that our pastor says, but it's something that we live. Like, we see it every day. More and more good, decent people of faith are being called into this area. And, you know, we opened the broadcast talking about Governor Stitt in Oklahoma, his definition of freedom. This is a good place to be. It's not, I can't get a pizza delivered here. I can't rent a Porsche. I'm not going to go have wine night with the girls here because there's no place to do that, right? But, again, back to personal responsibility, I can make my own pizza. I guess if I really had to, I'd figure out how to rent a Porsche. We've got plenty of wine and we can hang out on the porch, right? And so it's really about, what do you value in life? What are your priorities? I would rather be more independent and more free and have to take more personal responsibility to take control over my agriculture and the food that I eat, the lessons that my children are taught, the people that I fellowship with. I mean, guys, my church is in the woods. Okay, we study the word on the porch. You know, I got sheep in my front yard. Things are a little bit different here, but they're better, at least for me, than they could be in a lot of other places, because I don't value the big homes and the fancy cars and the nice clothes and the, you know, professional haircuts and the, you know, the bonus from the nameless, faceless corporation that I work for. It's just not for me. This is a simpler life here. It's more work, but it's good work and it's rewarding. Remember that the Father created Adam to guard the garden and to work it, to rule, literally to rule and subdue. That is the job of man, to rule and subdue. And you got to have your own little garden. You got to have your own piece of wilderness to get out there to work it and to guard it, to rule it and subdue it. And praise the Father, we do. We have that. And I'd rather have that than to be whoring in Babylon, to be chasing after all the pretty things and the nice people. Because I did that. I've done that. I've made tons of money in my life. I've been all over the United States. I've literally swizzled whiskey with billionaires and, you know, been in private jets. I've done all that. It doesn't impress me anymore, and it really didn't impress me then. I was just playing a game, and for what? I was empty on the inside. I was blessed today, after working with brothers all day outside, to spend an hour sitting on the porch just hanging out with Stalwart Peacekeeper earlier, just telling stories, just hanging out, content after a day of hard work. I'd rather have that. I would rather be content after a day of hard work than have to go blow off some steam by jumping in my Bugatti because my boss was an a-hole today at work. And that's not me. It's not my speed.
Speaking of, I got called in there.
Shalom, brother. Neil Weller. Hey, Bear. Started to ask a question before I could type it. It's answered, but here's one. Where does one draw the line in the sand having two young children and knowing the whole purpose of this is for their existence? Neil, you do what you got to do. You figure out how you can best meet the needs of your children long term. And then if this is all for them, you do whatever you need to do to make it all for them. Like I said, we moved from Texas to Oklahoma to be in a better position to lead my home and to serve my family, because my priorities were different than the opportunities that I was presented with in North Texas. Shalom, brother. Thanks for hanging out and helping out. Work in progress. I think Refuge training was coming to Phoenix area. Question. I was a CLS a long time ago. Would I be better served to attend the level 1 class in the Phoenix area or drive to Vegas and take the level 3? So you need the level 1 to take the level 3. But we've had several combat lifesaver qualified people, current and former, who have taken the level 1 and been like, damn, I didn't know that. Or thank you for showing me that technique. I was unaware of that. So that you'd be well served with either class, but you need to start with, what's up, Romans 12:18? You need to start with the responder 1 and then work to the responder 3. It's sad when someone can afford anything yet have nothing in their life of real value. I agree, BB Dragon. That's an excellent comment. Guys, we got a couple more minutes here, and then we're going to shut it down. We're almost 3 hours in. Still got 1,150 people here. Bless y'all, Bear Nation. When will we see the Bear Nation versus Shofar Mountain tactical games pay-per-view fundraiser idea? Well, I'm not going to brag, but I do happen to personally know the guy that won the Shofar Mountain games last year. Just saying. Just saying. So, a vaccine passport to buy food, to have electricity, water utilities, tax returns, medical insurance, driver's license, federal government tax returns. Maybe. Again, in Oklahoma, there was a law that was passed that it is illegal in the state of Oklahoma to require proof of vaccination to engage in the trade of goods or services. You cannot do it in the state of Oklahoma. Now, if a federal law is passed, and we are-ish a federalist society, if a federal law is passed to the effect of saying, yes, you must have that, I'm positive Oklahoma will challenge that in federal court. And I think that many other states should have already done that and just haven't. They've just folded, acquiesced, and that was a bad move. But again, it's at some point, I don't know where all of y'all stand when it comes to spirituality and religion, but if you read the Bible, at some point, the demarcation, the line between those who will and those who won't gets stronger, it gets brighter. There's a greater divide, a separation. There's a sifting, and that sifting is occurring right now. It's what sanctified means. It's what holy means. It literally means set apart. There are people who are set apart by the Father who will not do this. Just won't do it. Praise the Father, I'm one of them. I won't do it. And so whatever I have to do, getting back to that earlier question of what do I do for my kids to make sure my kids don't have to endure this? Whatever I have to. But I'm not going to be a cuck. I'm not going to fold like a cheap chair. I'm not going to acquiesce to the will of another man. I take personal dominion over my life. It's my life. It's my liberty. It's my pursuit of happiness. This is my family. Those are my kids. That's my wife. This is my land. These are my businesses. These are my friends and loved ones. This is my breath in my lungs. I'm responsible for that, not you. Good, bad, and different. Not you or anybody else. And you don't get to tell me what I get to do with my life. And I won't do it. And so that divide is widening. And what I would really like is as that sanctification process works on so many of y'all and so many of those people that are out there that are feeling that way, that they find their balls and stand up and just simply say no. You have to call evil, evil. This is evil. You cannot allow other people to decide for you what your life will and won't be. This is the lessons of the sages and the Stoics. You are responsible for you. It is your life. Look at what Messiah did for us by making a personal relationship available to you with the creator of the universe. It's your life. It's your soul. They're your actions. They're your ramifications. It's your blessing or your curse. It's your responsibility. And so, as that divide widens, and it's only going to get worse. It's only going to get more pronounced. As that divide widens, as you find yourself on one side of that divide or the other, you need to be assertive in that. There's a reason you were sanctified. There's a reason you were set apart. Literally holy. That's what it means. There's a reason you were made holy. You were set apart from this nonsense. And it's not so you can sit on your ass and be quiet. It's not so that you can shirk the responsibility that the Father has blessed you with. It's so that you can be the fully actualized man or woman that you are. So literally, why did the Father create Adam? To rule and subdue, to guard the garden and to work it. Why did he create Eve? To be his co-warrior, to work with him to accomplish these tasks that the Father laid in front of them. That is the ideal state of the human being, to be working on behalf of the Father within the roles that he has given them. So, got a couple more minutes and then I'm out. And to have fellowship with himself. Amen. Vikings need their shield maidens. Thanks for spending time with us, brother. Makes us feel valued and like family, man. Scott, bless you. Thanks for hanging out with me. It's been a while since we've done a live stream. It's been a while since we've done an intel dump. It's been a while since we've got to just hang out and chat. I really do appreciate y'all. It's been a great live stream. It's been a great live stream. And thank y'all for supporting our small businesses too. Honestly, I'm 20 lives saved, man. It's absolutely awesome. We've trained hundreds of people. By the time we get done this year, we will have trained 1,500 people as a year one company. Absolutely awesome. And I just appreciate you guys supporting us, for showing up for these live streams, for supporting us on Patreon, for dropping all the super chats, for purchasing our products, for coming to our live events, for supporting us, for praying for us. You guys are just absolutely awesome. There is nothing like the Bear Nation. And with that, I'm going to bounce. I really appreciate y'all. Thank you for being here. And hey, share this out with somebody you think needs to see it. Bless y'all. Shalom.